Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has decided to carry forth his parents' dream for peace. We turn to Konoha part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Chakra, the very essence of a creature. Their mental energies and their physical strength, molded into a power that flowed within someone. A manifestation of a being's experience and knowledge combined with their material capabilities into a liquid strength that flowed within every creature. Big or small, tall or short, strong or powerful within a metaphysical circulatory system within a being. And just like the two aspects that made it, it can be trained like a muscle, growing stronger the more it was used and can grow infinitely, like one's wisdom as he ages. And as the loss of either aspect to a being can kill it, so does chakra drain kill humanity. The only being that can manipulate and use such a power, and the pinnacle of humanity, the sage of six paths, the Rikuta Sennin was the one to have discovered the ability and method to use this power. Even his blood contained a massive power, for he had a powerful bloodline, a skill carried by blood and cannot be learned by anyone. He was the wielder of the Rinnegan, a bloodline unlike no other, and with his bloodline and skills he saw the world and how it was constructed, giving rise to the art of seals, a way of how to deconstruct and reconstruct the world in the form of patterns and chakra lines, having learned, from his own observation and practice, how the world revolved around chakra and its flow. His knowledge of the world's flow and the influence chakra had on it gave rise to Nishu, later known as ninjutsu, the art of using one's chakra from within to exert influence on the five elements that made up the world, changing and manipulating it as one desires. And with his otherworldly strength, he faced against a terrible beast unlike any other, a titanic being, vaguely human-shaped with 10 massive flowing tails behind it, known only as the Jubi. No one knew where it came from or how it appeared. Out of nothingness it came, destroying everything in sight as it killed everyone and everything it encountered. The world itself seemed to cry as the powerful being rampaged through the world. A single swing of its tails crushed mountains, destroys armies like toys. A single step destroyed entire towns, its survivors fleeing as a terrible feeling of death and destruction followed its every step. Lakes dried with a single breath, its hunger knew no bounds as animals and humans alike ran from its unstoppable charge. As one, humanity cried out to their gods. To save them. To destroy this merciless creature. To annihilate it. To return their peace. Peace from before the titanic being came, and the gods answered. The great sage came out from his meditations and training only to face this terrible monster that came from nothingness, intent on returning everything in the world to the same state it was once in, a state of absolute inexistence. The great sage roared his challenge to the massive beast, the massive storm it brought with its every move not scaring him at all as he charged, meeting the beast that towered over mountains with but one thing in his mind, to eradicate it and to return peace to the world. Like two gods they met, their catastrophic clash a story told for eons. Mountains were torn asunder and recreated as volcanoes erupted and cooled at a pace not seen in millennia. Seas rose and fell at their command, the waters raging and calming with every move they made. Islands sank and rose, rivers dried and formed as the two fought continuously, one to protect and the other to destroy. The climate was torn apart as Mother Earth became the greatest victim in their battle. The great sage tried saving everyone and everything with his Nishu as he fought, every death and destruction another heavy weight in his heart, pushing him further and harder to stop this mad being. Days passed as they warred with each other, nature itself became their weapon in an effort to best the other, the sage living on nothing but his own powerful silvery chakra, glowing with an unearthly shine as he manipulated it to take the terrible beast down. Finally, he succeeded in restraining the immense being. Yet it still roared and raged, its strength too strong for even the great sage of six paths to hold back for long. And with his immense knowledge, he made his decision. He carved furrows on the ground around the immense being, restrained by silvery chains on the ground. Pathways to the world's mysteries opened as the sage constructed the immense array of seals on the ground, destined for two tasks united as one only, to separate the beast's physical and spiritual component, sealing the body elsewhere as its spirit and power lived on within him, forever bound to his mortal body. Yet the massive being held strong, struggling and thrashing as the sage completed the massive array. The sage placed his palm on the furrows before silvery power flowed from the sage into the lines on the earth, the glow of the sealing process seen from miles away as it lighted the sky. The beast screamed its terrible rage the words of man as the sealing proceeded, feeling its spirit and body separate. Cruise you, Rikuto! Curse you and all your descendants! May they all know rage, anger and fury! May they know vengeance! They shall never know peace, not while they still live! When I come back, I will crush them and feast upon their souls. The Jubi roared in rage towards the sage. Such a thing will not happen, Jubi. I will seal your essence within myself and seal your body in an unreachable place, forever stuck in limbo. The sage said while continuing the sealing calmly despite his weary and tired body. Nearly every worn-out piece of him was feeling the pain of trying to hold such a powerful force within his battered body, yet he endured with a will stronger than the toughest iron, wanting to end this abomination's existence. Curse you! You will not be able to hold my power for long, mortal. You are but human, and all humans die with time. When you do, I shall be free once more." The Jubi continued spouting his demoralizing words, every sentence lined with unbridled hatred and rage. "It's true that I will die. That is an undeniable fact, for I am mortal. But I will do everything I can to make sure you will no longer be able to harm this world." The sage shouted back in absolute defiance towards the still thrashing Jubi as he watched and monitored the essence of the Jubi being absorbed into his chakra core. "Curse you! Curse you to the pits of hell!" With an ear-splitting roar, the Jubi's life ended as its spirit and power were sealed within the sage's body, its physical form lying on the ground in a heap, losing every presence of life from it. Yet the great sage knew that he was still not done with it, for the being continued its rage and fury within him. Using the last dregs of his power, the sage lifted the husk, surrounding it, and creating a massive rock in the sky, one that would later become known as the moon. For a week the sage was comatose, having used every last piece of his godly powers to subdue and seal the terrible beast. Yet no one saw his moment of weakness, having pulled the Jubi to a desolate area. Only stories of his battle were known. No one but the sage knew how the end of the immense creature came by. He woke up with pain in his entire body as he limped away from the sight, a smile on his face as he successfully stopped the creature. The sage traveled the world in his years afterwards, teaching his Nishu to the people in the hopes that it would bring peace and prosperity. A god in human form he was called as he spread his knowledge and teachings. His power awed and horrified people all the same as he walked the world with his purple-ringed eyes, the 9 tomos on each of the 3 rings spinning slowly with every second he lived, enchanting and terrifying every person he met with its hypnotic look. Despite this he rejected it vehemently. Godlike he may be, but a god he was not. Again and again he rejected the people's presence and prayers. He answered their prayers all the time, healing the critically sick and restoring the lands dead from the Jubi's rampage into something usable once more. The people kneeled and revered him, yet without fail he stopped them, saying that there were gods in heaven and that they should pray to them instead of him, a mortal being filled with weakness and imperfections. Amongst his travels of the villages, the great sage fell in love with a woman, her name long since lost in the folds of the sage's history, to be clouded by myths and legends in the future even as he himself were forgotten after his death. Yet at that moment, the sage had nothing in his mind but the woman that he loved with all his heart, one that had the greatest honor of becoming his wife. Together they walked the world with the sage passing his teachings down to his wife and the 2 children that were born from their union. Yet unknown to his family, the Jubi's word were true. Not a single day passed by without the sage feeling his body breaking up from within as his mind worked itself to its limits, trying to hold back the terrible whispers of death and destruction and infinite power the Jubi's essence within him promised as its vile power coursed through his body despite his best efforts at sealing it within him. All he needed to do, said the voice, was to let it go. Yet the sage held it back with everything he had to his detriment. The only thing that assisted him in holding the power back would be his family, his love to them and their love to him the only fuel that helped him hold the influence back. One day, the sage felt his power waning, the effort of holding the Jubi's foul spirit within him too much for even his body to endure. He revealed the terrifying fact to his family, finally removing the veil over his weakening body, much to their fears and sadness. Despite everything, the great sage smiled calmly, telling them it would be alright and that he can recover in the future. It was the only lie he told his family. With the power his mysterious bloodline gave him, he split the Jubi's spirit into parts using his ninpu, creation of all things. Each of the parts were imbued with a piece of his own soul, overpowering the defeated and fragmented soul of the Jubi, giving the parts their own personality and their own soul, something that would help in eradicating the vile Jubi completely in the future. The parts morphed from their original form as blobs of chakra before changing shapes into animals, some looking out of this world yet alive all the same. The eldest sister Kurumi with 9 tails, the Kyubi. A kitsune demon, she was a fox with clawed humanoid forearms and rabbit-like ears. The next was a male, Gyuki, an ox demon that had the combination of 8 octopus tentacles, being the 8-tailed or Hachibi, as legs on a humanoid body with an ox's head. The third was a rhinoceros beetle with 6 wings and a tail, the 7-tailed Nanabai, male Chome. The fourth, the female 6-tailed Rokubi. Saiken was a large bipedal slug with 6 tails and short, stubby arms. 5-tailed Gobi Koko was a dolphin horse, a horse with a dolphin's head with 5 horns, 2 longer ones at the back of his head with 3 shorter ones at the front, all of them swept backwards. A massive fanged red monkey with the body of a horned gorilla became the form of Son Goku, the male 4-tailed Yanbi. Isabu, meanwhile, was a female turtle with a crab-like shell littered with spikes and 3 shrimp-like spiked tails, being the 3-tailed Sanbai. The 2-tailed female Nibi was a beastly cat made of bluish flames named Matatabi. The youngest, a raccoon dog made of blue-veined sand, was the female 1-tailed Shikaku. Altogether, they were collectively called the Biju, the tailed beasts. Together with his family, the collection of strange animals traveled the world, though the Bijus had to hide themselves when they encountered humans, in order to hide their existence and to prevent the people from freaking out when they met them. Like sons and daughters they were treated by the family, the teachings of the great sage taught to them as well. They loved and were loved, something that kept the foul influence of their powers from influencing them. The soul of the Jubi may have been crushed, but its powers were still corruptive, the terrible spirit of the Jubi having seeped into every ounce of its power as well. Yet, despite everything they did, it was too late. The Rikuta Senin's body was too corrupted and damaged to heal, no matter what Nishu techniques or what medicinal herbs. Within just months after he created the Bijus, his body was too worn out to survive any longer, even with his godly powers, a proof that a god he was not. On his deathbed, he gave his last words to his two sons, wanting them to achieve peace in the world. In the future, their different philosophies separated them, the older Indra who inherited their father's eyes becoming the ancestor of the Uchiha clan with the younger, Ashura who inherited their father's powerful chakra, became the ancestor of the Senju clan. Before he breathed his last, he wished to speak with the rest of his family, the still young and small Bijus, aged barely months old. Surrounded by the beings he himself created, he spoke, his voice wheezing as his body began failing him. All of you, Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Koko, Saiken, Chome, Gyuki and Kurumi, hear me. Each of you are a part of the Jubi that I split and gave life to. There is, however, something that I haven't told any of you. During the split, I also separated parts of my soul to create all of you, giving you sentience and a thinking mind. Also, the part of my soul within you has a part of my creation of all things jutsu that will activate itself when the conditions are fulfilled. This part of me will change you into a half-demon, one whose powers still remain, but in a human form. He said to the Bijus around him, both his and their tears falling in his final moments. But father, why would you do that to us? A human cannot live forever. We might even release the power of the Jubi back to him upon our deaths. Asked Yuki in shock and anger. That is true, the sage said, nodding his agreement. However, the condition for the activation of the jutsu is if, and only if, you manage to gain a mate worthy of the love of a Bija. Remember, my children, that even though all of you were once a part of an evil being, love will be able to cleanse the powers of the Jubi that you all contain. The jutsu will only activate once you found a worthy mate, and have given yourself fully to him or her, thus making you powerless. Your power will recover to its original level in time. This will cause the Jubi's vile power to be neutralized, and destroy him entirely. It will also turn your chosen mates into half-demons as well. As long as you are not beheaded, you will be immortal with your children inheriting the traits of the half-demon that you and your mate will become. But father, why a human? Can we not choose what creature is to be our mate? Asked Kurumi next. A human is special. Only a human is capable of loving another creature apart from themselves. However, it is also true that only humans can hate as much as they do, for our capacity to love is intertwined with our capacity to hate. As you move through life, you will find the journey hard and rough. Always remember, though, that you will find your destined one, and he or she will be with you no matter how hard the road may be. The creation of all things will also produce a seal that marks your chosen mate and binds their soul with yours. So that if one of you were to die, the other would follow. Due to this binding, you and your mate will never be affected by any genjutsu, for one soul will immediately recover the other, a soul bond unlike any other. Coughing on his last few breaths, the sage continued his words of advice. Remember, my children, only love, pure love, can neutralize the power of the Jubi that you all contain, just like your mother's love did to me. Remember this, and you shall not be consumed by the evil of the Jubi's power within you. He coughed again, ignoring his sons' and daughters' sad eyes. Each of you has parts of the Jubi's power. Shikaku, the ability to control sand and earth. Matatabi, the power to summon cleansing flames and move the dead at your command. Isabu, control over water and an extremely hard shell as a defense. Son Goku, the ability to create and manipulate lava. Koko, the power of scalding steam. Saiken, the skill to use offensive and defensive acids, poisons and even healing fluids. Chomei, the hard skin of the Jubi which manifests as a shell and the ability to fly. Lastly, Gyuki, the brute strength and the multiple arms of the Jubi. When you and your chosen mate become a half-demon, all these abilities and powers will be shared by you, your mate, and any descendants that you may have. Except for Kurumi, the Bijus nodded in both sadness and understanding. They understood that they had mysterious powers unlike the animal that they were supposed to look like, but they never knew that it actually came from the Jubi itself. Father, what about me? You haven't mentioned the power that my part of the Jubi has, asked Kurumi. She never felt any special powers, nor was she capable of doing anything that her siblings could. Yours is the most special, my daughter. You contain not just the extreme healing abilities that the Jubi had, but also the power to change and modify your body. This ability is what made the Jubi so hard to defeat, since he could adapt to any attacks or jutsus that I used. However, I managed to overpower him and later defeat him, so it is definitely not infallible. Always remember that. The sage said his last words of advice to Kurumi. His breathing and words both slowed massively, and with his last breath he spoke, his last tears rolling down on his old cheeks. Now, my children, remember to love, and remember me. Remember my story of the Jubi. Now, it appears it's time for me to take my leave, and return to the pure world to be with my ancestors. Goodbye, and always remember that I love all of you." The sage then closed his eyes and passed on to the next world. "Father? Father? Don't leave yet! Father!" screamed Shikaku while shaking the lifeless body of the sage. The other Bijou looked downwards, tears in their eyes as they watched their father die a peaceful death, and thus ended the life of the savior of the world, the sage of the six paths. For a short while the entire family kept themselves close, yet grief took their mother's life away from them mere days after the sage's death. Losing the unifying factor, the two boys separated from each other despite the Bijou's pleading and crying. And as they left, even the Bijous, previously unified as one, began leaving, making their way through life on their own. The legend of the sage became clouded in myth and mystery, lost within the merciless folds of time. Some ancient records said that they actually parted ways for thousands of years. Though the legends were varied and many, one thing remained the same. They all reappeared once more during the rise of the shinobi era. The two sons, parted and separated, married and established clans of their own within the war-torn lands. The teachings of their father changed and warped through the years, making it a pale shadow of its previous glory as they perverted the knowledge of Nishu, using it to wage war for the side that paid the most. From this rose the shinobi era and the mutation of Nishu into its more modern equivalent, the ninjutsu. Slowly but surely, the evil whispers of the Jubi tormented and corrupted the Bijus. They remained hidden at first, hiding themselves from humanity. Yet their young, fragile minds were unable to stop the vile whispers of the Jubi within them, corrupting them and turning them from the guardian beasts they were supposed to be into massive abominations. Their titanic size, having grown immensely during their years of hiding, revealed them to the world. Humanity had long since feared anything more powerful than they were, attacked them in their misguided fear, becoming the final straw on the camel's back as their frail mind shattered, turning them into mindless beasts of terror hell-bent on death and destruction as they rampaged across the land. And once more, the Jubi showed the sage that his words were true. Only Kurumi, the eldest of the Bijou, managed to hold on to her sanity. Even from the beginning she feared her power, constantly needing her father's gentle touch to silence the voices in her mind. Not wanting to lose her mind like her siblings, she ran and hid within a mountain, sleeping for eons, not wanting to harm anyone with her powers. In her hibernation, her mental state held true, unchanging as the voices in her mind were silenced with her effort. The mountain she hid in would later become what would be called the Iron Country, famed for its mines and high-quality steel. Tired of the years upon years of non-stop war, a group of shinobi decided to create peace within their own ranks by creating the first ninja village. Groups of shinobi could work together in harmony, taking on tasks that they would usually ignore due to lack of manpower or skill. Senju Hashirama, descendant of the second child of the sage, decided to make peace with Uchiha Madara, descendant of the first child. They decided to unite their clans under the banner of the Hidden Leaf Village, or Konoha, the first hidden village. The symbol being a leaf with a swirl center, in honor of their Uzumaki allies that helped forge the alliance. The success of the system quickly urged others to copy it, creating the rise of the Hidden Villages era. During the early creation phase, Hashirama was unanimously chosen by everyone to be the first Hokage or Fire Shadow, the leader of the village. Yet Madara, who previously supported this alliance, was not satisfied with this decision. Madara still hadn't completely eradicated the thoughts that were buried within him from the years of fighting between the Uchiha and Senju clans, whose reasons had long since been lost. He believed that the Senju would eradicate them from the earth, suppressing them in the guise of proper leadership. Towards his clan's council of elders he proposed his plans, a massive coup d'état led by the Uchihas to overthrow the Senju from their high position before instating an Uchiha as the Kage, an action to prevent their future submission under the Senju's rule. Yet they unanimously voted against his proposal. Furthermore, they banished him from their clan, disowning him for his foolish idea. They were as tired of the years of fighting like the Senjus were, and his idea was the height of folly against their uneasy and recent peace. Madara left Konoha in anger. In his mind, he could foresee the terrible future their clan would suffer under the Senju's rule. He had been thrown away for showing them the absolute truth. Hashirama may have been his old friend, yet he knew, more than anything else, he was a Senju, and they were enemies from the beginning. His brilliant mind, fueled with his rage, began hatching a plan to take back the leadership of Konoha to Uchiha hands by force. And it would first involve the strongest Bijou, the Kyubi, long since hidden from the world. After some time spent searching, Madara finally found the immense Bijou within the cavernous space within the mountains of Iron Country, its blood-red figure radiating immense power unlike any other within the dark cavern. His much-vaunted Mangekyo Sharingan, said to be the ultimate form of the Uchiha's bloodline, the Sharingan met eye to eye with the Bijou's forcefully awakened self. And with but a mental command, the beast was under his control, ready to be unleashed on the world. At a place that would later be called the Valley of the End, three people stood. The Shodame Hokage, Senju Hashirama, his wife Uzumaki Senju Mito, who came out from the safety of their village's walls from a powerful chakra reaction Hashirama detected from afar, and Uchiha Madara. Hashirama realized the challenge he forced upon them with his chakra reaction. And so, he decided to question his rival, once a friend, on his actions. Madara, why are you doing this? The alliance between the Senju and the Uchiha was meant to make peace between our clans, not further antagonize each other. Hashirama shouted to his best friend. We were friends. We wanted peace together. Don't you remember our promise? Shut up, fool. Did you think I didn't know of your plans? You would subvert my clan under your will, turning us into nothing but sacrificial lambs while yours will grow, unstopped and unchecked. The Uchiha would then fall under the sheer weight of the Senju's strength, and be forgotten. I will stop you before that happens even though my clan banished me. And they will learn not to trust the Senju. Madara screamed his reply, bitterness and rage clouding his every word. No, Madara, you are the fool. I did not choose to be the leader. It is by majority vote that I was picked as the leader. A vote which included the members of your clan. Hashirama shouted back, trying to turn Madara's thoughts back to the right path. Shut up. I will hear no more of this. I will end you and your wife, and make Konoha mine. Hashirama sighed as he replied in sadness and failure. Then fight we shall, Madara. I will not hold back just because you are my friend. Prepare yourself. And a battle of a grand scale erupted between the three, its intensity nearly matching the fight their ancient ancestor, the great sage, had against the Jubi. The Shodames would release Bloodline and Madara's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which he gained by taking the eyes of his brother. Izuna clashed in an epic battle as living trees burst from the ground with a single command, meeting against unquenchable black flames of the vaunted Amaterasu. The surrounding areas were destroyed and rebuilt so many times the map changed entirely from the fight. Yet Madara never relented, continuing his unrelenting assault on Hashirama despite its futility. You are a great fighter and warrior as always, Hashirama. Madara shouted within their combat. But this is the end. This is my trump card to defeat you. Summoning Jutsu, Kyubi, a massive cloud of smoke erupted as Madara summoned his absolute weapon, the mind-controlled form of the Biju Kyubi. Protected by Madara's ultimate defensive technique, the Susanoo, the Kyubi roared forward, its entire being forced to fight against its will from Madara's powerful illusionary technique. Yet Hashirama never faltered. He unveiled his own trump card, activating his Sage Mode as he absorbed chakra from nature's own, something he was very attuned with. With the immense power his Sage Mode afforded him, he subdued the Kyubi in a prison of wood dragon, its massive form struggling all the while even as its powers were absorbed within the hallowed wood of his jutsu. My love! Concentrate on fighting Madara. I will seal the Kyubi within myself. Mito shouted out. She knew that the Bijus couldn't be killed, for they were chakra entities, corporeal beings that were without physical form. Even if they were somehow defeated, they would only reform again in a couple years. And the only way to completely stop the rampage of such a being was to seal it within someone, for no mere object can be strong enough to hold the immense power of Biju, especially of the Kyubi's caliber, held. But the Kyubi is a very powerful creature. You will not last. Have you forgotten that we of the Uzumaki clan are masters of sealing? I will be fine. Just go. Thank you, my love. Madara. I shall defeat you today. Hashirama screamed, power filling his every being with his Sage Mode. Do your worst, Senju scum. Madara screamed back in reply. With the immense power afforded to him from his Sage Mode, he soundly trumped Madara and his immense arrogance despite his terrifying power. Yet Hashirama did not deal the final blow to him, still believing, naively, of the good within his old friend's heart as he left the area, leaving Madara's battered and broken body lying where he was, only a hair's breadth from death's door. Hailed as the hero of Konoha for saving them from nearly assured destruction, Hashirama began planning for a peaceful coexistence between Konoha and the other hidden villages. To achieve that, he captured the rest of the 9 Bijus with his wood release that had a strangely calming effect on them and distributed them between other villages as a symbol of peace and power balance, with Iwa getting the Gobi and the Yanbi, Kiri getting the Sanbai and the Rokubi, Taki getting the Nanabai, Sune getting the Ichibi, and Kumo getting the Hachibi and the Nibi, a decision that was met with scorn by the great sage in heaven. But this was not the end, for a new story began for Kurumi. A couple months after the Shodame gave the Bijus away to other, newly established villages, she finally awoke. What? What just happened? Where am I? Kurumi woke up and saw, much to her surprise, that she was chained within a pure white space. Her snout was muzzled, her arms, legs and tail stabbed with huge iron spikes. She tried to wriggle out of the muzzle and spikes, but it seemed impossible. What is this? I am trapped. How am I trapped here? The last thing I saw was a red eye with spinning tomos, then I knew no more. This is your seal Kyubi, and I am your jailer. Your Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Mito. A lithe figure wearing a kimono, her crimson hair tied in buns with talismans hanging from them appeared in front of Kurumi. What? I am sealed? How can that be? I lived away from humans in secret. How can I be sealed? She screamed out. She never expected to be sealed. It was just like what happened to the Jubi. What had the world turned into during her eons of sleep? You were summoned by an enemy of my husband, Senju Hashirama, during a battle. You immediately attacked my husband and tried to kill him. So he subdued you using his Mokutan or wood release and I sealed you within myself. Mito calmly replied. Even from her reply, Mito could sense that there's something more to this than what she knew of the Bijus. What? I don't remember taking part in any battle nor war, and I still remember father's teachings. There is no way I would be involved in a battle between humans, Kurumi replied, calming herself as she stopped struggling against the spikes. She slumbered to avoid involving herself within the troubles and the wars of humans while also preventing the fate that befell her brethren from falling on her, to become nothing but a corrupted, deadly beast intent on crushing everything in front of her. If you do not believe me, I will show you the proof. I will show you my memories of the battle, and you will see the actions which caused you to be sealed. Mito replied towards Kurumi's confusion. A jumble of memories from Mito assaulted the mind of Kurumi, and she saw her rage, her anger, and her power being used against Hashirama. What? But I don't understand. I have no recollection of these events, and as a Bijou, I remember everything that happens. I do not remember being summoned, attacking you and your husband, nor anything that happened in that memory. Such a turn of events was strange to say the least. She hadn't left her hideout for years, yet she found out that she was summoned for a battle? Why had it happened? And how? What is the last memory that you remember then? Maybe we can make some sense of it, Mito asked, trying to get to the bottom of the issue. My last memory is of peacefully sleeping in my den in the mountains, before an explosion interrupted my sleep. I went outside to see what happened and looked into a strange eye, a red eye with 3 spinning tomos around a pupil. The next thing I remember is waking up with these spikes and muzzle on me, Kurumi replied. For some reason, that man's chakra felt like her father's, albeit at a much lower concentration, as if it was diluted. That sounds like the Sharingan, a Dijutsu that can cast powerful illusions onto a target. From what I can understand, it seems like Madara controlled you with the Sharingan and forced you to attack us, Mito said, giving her best explanation for the events that had taken place. From what I can see in your memories, that would be the most logical answer. But controlled? If being controlled like that makes me become lost to rage, I'd rather not be controlled anymore. His father, being their creator, had a presence that could calm and pacify a Bijou, even the more unruly ones. His eyes, a powerful bloodline, helped him in their creation, yet she did not know whether he could control them like that. This father you kept talking about, who is he? From the way you speak of him, you respected him a lot. Care to share the story with me? Mito inquired. She never expected the Bijus to have a father. Not that anyone knew most of their history anyway. They suddenly appeared, destroying everything in their path. Or at least that's how their history goes, as far as anyone knew. Of course. Father is also known as the Sage of 6 Paths, and so Kurumi told Lady Mito about her existence, the Sage, the Jubi, and the history of the Sage. However, she hid the fact about the mates, not wanting to reveal it as of yet. It's not something to be shared lightly. Keeping it a secret would be much better for now, and now we end up here. Can you at least remove the muzzle? I have no problem being sealed into you. I promise I won't bother you much, so can you at least give me a better living area? She asked. It was very uncomfortable, while also preventing her from speaking with any sort of ease. Mito took a while to digest everything that Kurumi had told her. The Bijus all had a single origin, a man of godlike powers who had lived for hundreds of years and created the Bijus to divide the essence of a terrible being, sacrificing his life for world peace. It was not something that you'd do if you didn't love the world. Mind made up, she spoke her reply. You are truly a great and honorable creature, Kurumi-san. I will do more than loosen the chains on you. I will remove them completely. With but a thought, the muzzle and bars around Kurumi disappeared. She then massaged her hurting tails, arms, and snout. You know, you didn't have to use a seal that stabs me like that. It really hurt. She whined towards Mito, rubbing her sore snout with her paws. Though she acts childish sometimes, Mito thought with a sweat drop before continuing. I apologize, but the nature of the seal makes the restraints appear as such. Anyway, why are you fine with being sealed within me? Mito asked, though she might already have an idea of why. As I said earlier, my powers all came from the Jubi, whose destructive rage can destroy anything, though I can still stop myself from succumbing to the same rage by remembering Father's teachings. I managed to escape such a fate by isolating myself from the rest of the world and hiding myself in the mountains when I felt the whispers grew stronger. I guess that it is not enough, seeing as I still got sealed within you. In order to prevent myself from being used as a tool again, I would rather be sealed within you, seeing that I cannot be affected by any jutsu in here, she said. It is not a good feeling watching how she lost herself to her rage in Mito's memories. She needed to learn to control herself better. Oh. I guess that is a rather interesting thought. You are welcome to make your home in my mind, Kurumi-san, Mito said, welcoming the idea. Having such a powerful being living within you would help much in a lot of aspects. Happy at being able to gain a powerful new friend and ally, she turned around to leave the mindscape. Just one thing though, Mito-san, Kurumi said as she saw Mito's back towards her. Can I meet your husband? Why? Mito asked. His chakra, it felt almost like father's for some reason. I want to get a better feel, Kurumi replied. It's strange, how in what she felt was just a few days she had already felt at least 2 people with chakra similar to her father's. It would be nice if she could meet at least one of them in a much more peaceful way. Of course, Kurumi-san. I will bring him here into my mindscape. After a couple of minutes of Mito leaving, a second figure appeared in front of Kurumi. The figure of Senju Hashirama. Oh. So this is where the kyuubi is sealed in. And you are Kurumi-san. Mito has explained to me what are you doing. While Hashirama was speaking, the bijou had come closer to him and started sniffing him for no apparent reason. You have father's scent on you. Though it's weak, extremely so. That probably means that you are related to him somehow. Well, that's new. Being the person he was, Hashirama pondered for some time before snapping his fingers. Oh yeah. There were legends that said that our ancestors were the sage's son himself, though no one has ever proved it. I guess this means that we really are the descendants of the sage himself, together with the Uchiha. It probably is true, she said, nodding her gigantic snout in agreement. Only father's chakra could make me feel calm like that. Clearing his throat, Hashirama continued speaking. So, as I said earlier, Mito has explained to me about you and the bijous. We would be honored to help protect you. Also, considering what you said just now, it seems that we are extremely distant family members in a way. Considering that you thought of the sage as your father, and for that I thank you. However, there's one thing. Yes? What is it? Hashirama asked. It seems that time has long since passed from when I started my long sleep. And from what I could tell, father's teachings on chakra and its use have changed greatly. I would be happy if you could show them to me, if possible, each and every one of them. She asked. From the memories that she was shown and the way the two carried themselves, she understood something. The world had changed. So far away had time marched since she slept, that the teachings of her father had morphed. Learning these changes would help her understand the status of the world more. He showed us Bijuhi's skills, allowing us to learn a little of what he knew. Who knows, I might even help you improve your own skills with my knowledge, she added. Hashirama looked at Mito and back to Kurumi for a while before he sighed. I guess there's no harm in that, he said as Mito nodded her agreement. All right. We'll start tomorrow, if you want. No problem, she replied cheerfully, her snout turning up into a smile, though it looked quite weird on her foxy face. I have nothing but time. Thus began the life of Kurumi as she was sealed within Mito, who was taught in all that they knew about the ninja arts. Due to a bijou's photographic memory, even though she herself couldn't use it, she remembered the teachings of Mito and Hashirama, merging them with the sage's teachings. However, she had questions of her own towards Hashirama after a while of him teaching her his skills. Within the pure, untarnished infinite whiteness that was Mito's mindscape, Hashirama had just finished demonstrating another of his jutsu towards Kurumi as she looked towards him. Suddenly she asked him, all of your techniques, those ninjutsu of yours, I think that they're all skills to kill and to destroy. Why was that? Father taught the people his techniques so that they could help in building and improving lives. Not to kill and destroy. Why? Her question shocked both Mito and Hashirama. Hashirama was about to answer when Mito said first. Kurumi-san, it's been a long time since you've seen the world in its entirety. It is not easy for me to say this, but I suppose that it's because the teachings of the sage have long since been forgotten through the annals of time. What one made for good could easily be twisted into something evil. The same thing could be said of a power that protects. That it could also be used by someone to destroy. It's just a matter of perspective, said Mito. She took a deep breath as Hashirama looked at her with amazement, and Kurumi with sadness. Your father, the sage, when he taught the people his powers, he must have had nothing but good intentions in mind, didn't he? Seeing Kurumi's tearful nod, she continued. It only takes one person to change the way his teachings work before another will follow, and another, and another, and another. Creating a chain of change in perception on the uses of jutsu. Over the hundreds of years, this change has created the opinion that jutsu were meant to do nothing but kill. An opinion that has been melded into the mind of every human living. Kurumi remained silent after a while, before sighing. I guess what father said at his deathbed was correct, that men will kill, and war will continue to be waged for even the smallest reason. War, it never changes, she said, the last part added with a sigh. Placing her snout down on the pure white floor, she drew a deep breath before letting it all out in a giant whoosh as powerful as a storm towards Mito and Hashirama. She then stood to her full height before staring at both Mito and Hashirama. I believe that humans could be at peace, one day in the future. It may be hard, and the path may be difficult, but I will not lose hope. I just need to find the right person that could change the world, she said to both of them. Hashirama quickly said, and hopefully we'll be there for you when you find the person. She nodded in agreement at this. Right, she said before she added. Well, let's continue for now. There's still a lot of jutsu for you to show me, isn't there? And so, another day of demonstration continued for them, though her words weighed heavily in both Mito's and Hashirama's mind. Mito's marriage with Hashirama gave birth to a baby girl, their only child. The child lived in a period of a relative, uneasy peace before she married and gave birth to another girl, one who will be known to the world in the future as Senju Tsunade. Not many years after the joyous event, war broke out as greed and hunger drove men to take from others. Hashirama did his best to prevent the flames of war from touching his beloved village, yet it was only a matter of time before it knocked on their door, bringing with it immense disaster. Despite his truly immense power, Hashirama died defending his beloved village and granddaughter from the horrors of war as he faced down a massive army alone with no backup. After days upon days of battle, he succeeded in eradicating the encroaching army, yet his battered body can no longer hold on as he died standing on the battlefield, the wide ground littered with bodies of the dead and massive trees, a sign that he fought to his last there, and so ended Senju Hashirama's life, failing to see the man who would change the world. Lady Mito grieved the death of her love, her children's father and grandfather for a long time, her love to Hashirama as pure and as unflinching as nothing else in the world. Hashirama's death, just like the great sage's death to Kurumi's mother, sapped her entirely of the will to live, her only reason to live being the safeguarding of Kurumi. From Mito, Kurumi learned the love of a lover, something that her father spoke of, but cannot teach her. Senju Tobirama, Hashirama's brother, renowned for his skill in Suetun or water release, was elected as the Naidame Hokage, a vote once more undertaken by every major clan heads in Konoha. Years passed, and Tobirama died as well, leaving Mito alone once more, with only her granddaughter as company. Her daughter long since died in the fields of war, and upon the selection of the third Hokage, his husband's old student Sarutobi Hiruzen, Mito felt her spirit wane, just as the old sage did. Feeling her end coming, Mito requested for a member of the Uzumaki clan from her homeland, the island of Yuzu or Whirlpool, to become the next guardian of Kurumi. The person sent was her own niece, barely 5 years old, to act as the new host for the Bijou. The Whirlpool princess, named such from her relation with Yuzu's daimyo, Uzumaki Kushina, was told by Mito what she would put herself into. She bravely accepted the duty, though fear undoubtedly filled her as she did. The transfer process took a long time, yet she held herself steady through the entire process, reaffirming her homeland's decision to send her as the new host. Kurumi quickly took a shine to the little bundle of energy, bonding immediately with her. And just like Kurumi all those years before, Mito told Kushina of the secret to keep the Bijou's terrible whispers to a minimum on her deathbed. Love, a coalition of Kumokiri Iwa, the hidden village of Cloud, Mist and Rock respectively launched an attack on Yuzu not long after Mito's death in fear of the tiny Yuzu, fearing their specialty in one of the most difficult art of ninjutsu, sealing, which was their specialty. No one could best the Uzumakis in sealing arts, something that can turn the tides of war easily. Yet, the Uzumakis never gave any quarter in their defense against the coalition, fighting them with everything they had. They fought with traps and barriers at first. Having expended those, they went into a head-on fight, using their mastery of Yuzu's combat sealing arts and their skill in ninjutsu to utterly destroy their enemies. Yet their enemies pushed on, ignoring the truly immense casualty already on the ground. Out of weapons and chakra, the Uzumaki came in with their hand-to-hand battle, fighting the massive army to their last breath and the last man. Nearly 80% of the massive army were destroyed before they managed to defeat the guardians of Yuzu. They immediately marched into their capital, the city of Uzushio, as the last man died defending it, having evacuated its non-combatants early on. The army went to work, pillaging everything they could get their bloody, tired hands on and destroying the rest. As they came back from the tiny island, the forces of the coalition met with the counterattack from Yuzu's oldest and strongest ally, Konoha, as they struck with deadly strength upon the weakened army, destroying them entirely without giving them a chance to retaliate. They were slow to come, only having the war's news days after the war broke out. The hurried counterattack managed to defeat them, yet they came too late, for the rest of Yuzu were in ruins. As the war broke out, Kushina was utterly shocked and nearly tripped over herself to rush back towards her homeland to protect them, or at the very least avenge them. Yet Kurumi stopped her, persuading her that she would be of no use in her current condition, too young and too unskilled to be of any worth in the battle. The news of Yuzu's defeat hit her hard, nearly tearing her young psyche to pieces. Thankfully Kurumi was present within her, giving her a permanent friend and a place to cry out her tears of sadness. The Uzumaki clan were wiped out to a handful of survivors, all of them non-combatants who ran away from the village early on, Kushina being one of them. Years later, Kushina graduated from Konoha's Ninja Academy before being in a genin team, a squad of young and fresh ninjas from the academy led by a senior jounin. With her skill and ferocity, combined with her fast healing and special chakra chains from the bloodline skill of the Uzumaki clan, she quickly rose up the ranks. Yet at one time, she was kidnapped by the bloodline crazy Kumo, wanting to use her as a breeding machine to give birth to Uzumakis loyal to Kumo. The gods answered her prayers of safety and cries for help as she was saved by the very person she once called a wimp in the academy, the future fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato. In that very moment, she fell in love with him and immediately began approaching him actively, believing him to be her true love. Together they bonded, and together they loved each other, just before the Third Great Shinobi World War erupted. Namikaze Minato, a recently promoted jounin, swept through the ranks of attacking ninjas with his most powerful jutsu combination, the high-speed instant teleportation technique. The Hiraishin allowed him to sweep across the battlefield at light speed before coming close to his enemy, delivering them a killing blow with his close combat technique, the A-ranked Rasengan, which created a spiraling chakra ball of devastating effect. Both techniques he created himself. Upon the war's end, Minato was chosen by the aged Sandaime, Sarutobi Hiruzen, as his successor, becoming the fourth Hokage, the Yondaime with an SS rank in the bingo book of the other villages, his bounty so high that his life was threatened with every move he took outside the village. And because of this, he married his love, Uzumaki Kushina, in secret, not wanting anyone to learn of it. Not long after, Kushina became pregnant with a son, something that those in the know didn't expect from the completely tomboyish Kushina. No one dared say this to her though, afraid of her legendary rage within Konoha. Yet they all knew, if there were someone who would become a good mother, she would be the one, having been taught of the Uzumaki's familial value ever since she was young. Kurumi, I'm having a boy. Maybe this boy can be the person you're waiting for? She said in excitement to Kurumi, who was watching her container dance a random dance of happiness in front of her, a smile on her face as well from her container's infectious happiness. I don't see why not. I can feel the power that the boy contains, and I'd have to say that this boy is going to be a strong child. With you as his mother and Minato as his father, I'm sure that the child will be tough, both physically and mentally. Kurumi said, her container's happiness infecting her like a disease of the heart. That's true, Kurumi. Now all we have to do is wait until I gave birth to him. To my little Naruto, Kushina added as she twirled around on her foot, her bliss truly shining together with a huge smile on her face. You still decided to use that old pervert's book's main character's name as his name? She didn't have any right calling him old considering how old she was. But living with humans for years while also seeing how they loved and procreated, she understood a whole lot more about the concept of love and its taboos. And what Jiraiya, Minato's teacher as well as a self-proclaimed super pervert, were constantly doing was definitely a massive taboo to all women. What? I don't think it's a bad name, Kushina said in reply as she puffed her cheeks towards Kurumi. Besides, he's Naruto's godfather. He had the right to give a name to him. Tebane. She replied childishly towards Kurumi, who just chuckled at this, having heard her verbal tick so many times before it no longer registered with her. Well, it's your choice, I guess. I will not bother you with this petty argument anymore, she said as she went back to sleep in her cage. However, Kushina didn't miss the smile that was on her good friend's face as she retreated back into her cage. Before she left, she gave a bow towards Kurumi, the same blinding smile on her face at all times before her mental figure dispersed in thousands of shiny particles, her feeling lingering within the wide expanse that was her mindscape. And so, months later, Kushina was ready to give birth to her first, and unknowingly, her only child. Arg. Minato. I will kill you after this. This is your fault for getting me pregnant. Arg. Don't worry, Kushina. The baby's almost out. Keep pushing. Minato yelled out to his wife. His hand was probably broken in 5 different places, such was the strength of Kushina's grip. Yet, he didn't even wince. His excitement to be a father was the ultimate painkiller, as his face shone with both joy and worry. In a cave outside of Konoha, a platoon of the best of Konoha's A and B was guarding where Kushina was giving birth, for they feared that people would sense the demonic chakra flaring out of her because the seal weakened the most during the process of giving birth. Within her, Kurumi was doing her best to not damage the seal even more while reining in her demonic chakra and help dull the pain that Kushina was going through, with Minato doing his best to strengthen the seal with one hand on the seal glyphs on her navel. The cry of a baby then broke through Kushina's screams of pain, a sign that the baby was safely delivered. A boy, with small tufts of blonde hair and with the deepest sky blue eyes, was handed over to Kushina with Minato watching close by. Watching Minato's excited eye, she weakly handed the baby over to Minato. But just as Minato was about to hold the baby, an arm appeared out of nowhere, grabbing the child and killing Biwako Sarutobi, the medic that handled Kushina's delivery and also the Sandaime's wife and Tsunade's teacher, in a single move, something that surprised everyone within the room. Minato immediately took out one of his Horatian kunais and held it in a defensive position in front of the sprawling Kushina, ready to counterattack if anything happened. Who are you? What do you want with my son? The man, a person with a spiral mask on his face, laughed, his hand holding the blanket-covered baby. Your son? I have no need for him. You can have him. He then tossed little Naruto away while laughing at Minato, who immediately hiroshined to Naruto's position before realizing that the blanket covering Naruto was filled with exploding tags. He teleported Naruto to a small shack outside Konoha, prepared just in case of something like this before throwing the tags elsewhere. The tags exploded without harm, allowing Minato to disappear in a yellow flash once more, leaving his child within the small shack alone. Meanwhile, the man reached out to Kushina's seal, laughing all the way. What do you want with me? Oh no, Kushina. I want nothing to do with you. The thing that I want is within you. Realization immediately hit Kushina like a fist to the face. You want the QB? But why? She said, still too weak from the delivery to resist. It's because I want to see my ultimate ambition. I want to see Konoha burn to the ground. Blood-red chakra began bleeding out of Kushina's seal on her navel as the man's arm reached to it, the carefully constructed seal unraveling with the man's chakra. The chakra coalesced into the form of Fox's head with rabbit ears on Kushina's navel. Immediately it began struggling, not wanting its forced freedom. Yet she accidentally stared into the man's lone eye, meeting a swirling Sharingan eye. A glimpse was all it took for the man's control to fall on her, immediately silencing her down. Kurumi! Remember the teachings. Remember what your father said to you. Remember what you said to me. Kushina shouted, trying to snap Kurumi, her best friend, back to her senses. The mysterious stranger chuckled as he replied, "It's too late. She is now under my control. And my first order to you is to destroy Konoha." Kurumi roared in approval before her. Every chakra swirled out of Kurumi and was absorbed into the man's Sharingan eye in a whirl before the man disappeared, leaving Kushina to die. Sadly, he underestimated Uzumaki's vitality, since even though severely weakened, Kushina was still very much alive. In a bright yellow flash, Minato flashed to her location and could only apply first aid to her, before she yelled at him to stop the man and ignore her. He then flashed to the man's location, locating him from the chakra sensing ability the Horatian seals he had around the village provided him. Yet the only thing meeting him was the sight of the massive bijou form of Kurumi as she rampaged across his beloved village, destroying everything in sight. It was a peaceful day in Konoha, when all at once a man appeared above Konoha and summoned the Kyuubi. She started rampaging across Konoha, destroying homes, shops, and killing people. The sheer vileness of her chakra froze many a man. Some outright had heart attacks due to sheer overwhelming fear. Ninjas fought valiantly to stop her, jutsu were thrown, weapons were launched, yet nothing stopped her. Both ninjas and civilians died by the dozens, killed by a swipe of a tail, or stomped to oblivion. Black and white chakra began gathering in front of the bijou's open mouth as it charged up its most powerful attack, an immense ball of pure chakra capable of obliterating everything in its path. The bijudama, a bijou or its jinchuriki, the human sacrifice that carried a bijou, could perform. With a loud gulp, the bijou swallowed the massive ball of chakra, compressing and charging it further within herself. Its expanded stomach suddenly shrunk, the tiny ball of utter annihilation shooting from its mouth towards Konoha's town. In a bright flash of yellow came the long-coat-covered figure of the great Yondaime Hokage, a tri-pronged Horatian kunai in his hand. Quickly he held the kunai in one hand, his other hand in the half-tiger hand sign, his pointer and middle finger held straight with the other fingers folded back before he met the ball of destruction with the tip of his kunai. The ball immediately disappeared as it touched his kunai before reappearing a massive distance away, his jutsu transporting the massive ball of power to a different location. With a powerful eruption, the ball exploded, so massive it was visible even from Konoha. Despite the chaos, Minato calmly bit his thumb, bleeding it for the blood sacrifice required for his next jutsu before he ran his fingers through hand signs before placing his bleeding hand on the ground. A massive cloud of smoke erupted underneath his foot, revealing the massive form of the chief toad Gamabunta, a bijou-sized toad wearing a happy with the circular crest with the kanji 4 toad at its back, an oversized tanto behind him, a massive smoking pipe in his mouth. Minato! What is the meaning of this? I am not strong enough to fight against a bijou, especially the Kyuubi. She's called the strongest bijou for a reason, you know. Gamabunta screamed out angrily as the huge puff of smoke that heralded his arrival cleared. No summon can go toe-to-toe with a bijou, especially the Kyuubi. I know that, boss. I just wanted you to stall her for a couple of minutes while I deal with the person who summoned her here and to prepare a method to seal her into Naruto. Minato countered back. I can't buy you much time. She's too powerful for me. Don't worry, Bunta. Just do your best. Gamabunta then drew his tanto out of its sheath and jumped closer to the Kyuubi, preparing to distract her. Meanwhile, Minato quickly fought against the masked man that attacked Kushina and managed to rout his attacks and force him to flee. He grabbed Kushina and Naruto, then started to draw massive symbols on Naruto's stomach before they started arguing. We must seal her into Naruto. We have no other choice. Minato yelled out towards the distraught Kushina as she saw the symbols on Naruto's stomach, and what it meant. No, Minato. There is always another choice. You can reseal her into me. She retaliated, the Uzumaki hot-headedness and legendary stubbornness still strong even in her bloody, damaged condition. But you are weak right now. There is no way for you to handle the stress of the resealing. If you die, then she will be vulnerable again. The mind-controlled Kurumi, still rampaging across the area, quickly took note of the baby and the seals on it. Instinctively it attacked, thrusting its massive claw towards the baby, intending to kill it and stop whatever the tiny people were planning to it. Immediately Minato and Kurumi leapt in front of the massive claw, taking the hit meant for their son, the massive claw piercing through their torso easily. Despite the massive pain they were in, Kushina could still push herself. Her legendary chakra chains erupted from her tailbone before wrapping around the mad bijou, immediately restraining it with its unnatural strength and resilience granted from her powerful chakra. I guess there is no other choice. We must seal her into Naruto, Minato said, his words cut off by each painful breath he took. Yes, I'm sorry, Minato, for fighting with you. Let me say my last words to Naruto before you seal her within him with the dead demon-consuming seal, Kushina said, the last of her powerful life force leaving her. Naruto, there is so much I want to say to you, but our time here is short. Always remember to eat your veggies and to listen to Kurumi and train often. Be a strong person and do not fall into hatred. You are the savior of the world. Be strong. Find a nice girl. Kurumi is a very nice girl. I'm sure she will like you as well. Naruto, this is your father. I second everything your mom said. Forgive me for placing this burden on you, but we have no choice. May you forgive us in the afterlife. Now I'll end this. Fuinjutsu. Dead demon consuming seal. The specter of the Shinigami appeared behind Minato, a massive spectral demonic figure with a terrifying mask on its face with two long fangs jutting down its upper lips, tattoos covering its arm. The beads on its neck wrapped around its terrifying tattooed arm before it slowly pushed the arm through the silhouette of a man hanging in front of it wrapped in chains. From Minato's torso a massive ghostly arm shot forward, grabbing the figure of the struggling Kyuubi before it began pulling. In immense pain the being roared as the hand expanded and covered it entirely. Slowly but surely the arm dragged and shrank the massive figure of Kyuubi into a ball no larger than a tennis ball. The arm of the Shinigami continued on, pulling the soul before it quickly turned and switched direction, heading towards the seal-covered belly of little Naruto. With a loud hissing noise the arm pushed the tiny ball into the crying baby's stomach before the seals on his stomach burned, Kurumi having completely sealed within Naruto. The 8 trigram seal on his stomach consisted of a spiral surrounded by many wavy lines in an incomplete circle around it. Some more wavy lines stood straight, perpendicular to the tips of the lines, pointing outside the spiral. The Shinigami's tongue extended before wrapping around the ghastly human figure in front of it as its arm pulled out of Minato's torso before it grabbed the tanto within its mouth. With a quick slash, the figure of the person was sliced in half before the Shinigami inhaled and swallowed it. Minato and Kushina's body dropped on the ground as the Shinigami disappeared, the only thing holding them up having disappeared as 6 whisker marks appeared on Naruto's little face as he cried. With his last breath, Minato commanded to the reinstated Hokage. Hiruzen, this is my last order, as the Yondaime Hokage. Make sure Naruto is safe, and make sure he is hailed as a hero for saving Konoha. I will, Minato, I will. He spoke, tears falling down his eyes as he watched the life fade out of the couple, their child crying right beside their dead bodies. A great tragedy befell Konoha that day as their heroes died, leaving behind their son, the greatest hero Konoha ever had, one that had saved them from utter destruction. And this was where everything began, for the story had just started for little Naruto. Mere moments after the sealing were completed, Kurumi's eyes returned to their original shine. A sighing, she snapped out of the genjutsu. A massive cage with huge golden bars that reached the heavens was the first thing that caught her eyes, inky black darkness surrounding her with foetid waters at her feet being the next. She recalled what happened that resulted in her being sealed in this dank cage. The last thing she remembered was seeing the same eye that once controlled her as she was forced out of Kushina's seal, a memory that made her sob in sadness as she quickly connected the memory to her current situation, her tears flowing without end into the dark waters underneath her, her entire gigantic frame shaking from her cries. Kushina, Minato, I can't believe I got controlled again by the same eyes, no less. I never thought that the same thing would happen again. Now I am sealed within their son. Forgive me, Kushina. Minato, she cried and cried, having lost her good friend and guardian, Uzumaki Kushina. As Kurumi wallowed in her self-despair, little Naruto, barely 2 hours old now, was sleeping silently in a small wooden crib within the Spartan office of the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, as said Hokage attended a village council meeting concerning his reinstatement. Standing beside the crib was a dog-masked Anbu, one of the best in service of Konoha, Hatake Kakashi. He stood stoically with his spiky silver hair on his head, the restrained bodies of 3 of his fellow Anbu lying beside him. Despite the orders of the old Kage, the men attacked the infant with murderous intent. Their screams of the demon must die caught his attention before he appeared beside the crib, quickly restraining the 3 men before knocking them out, restraining them with ninja wire to prevent them from taking any further action. As a precaution, he stood by the crib, his eyes looking straight ahead, avoiding looking at little Naruto resting in the crib. Dog. Report. Came the commanding voice of the old Kage as he entered through the ornate double doors of his office, his experienced eyes quickly catching sight of the 3 disabled Anbu. His Anbu, quickly deducing that dog subdued them all. Sandaime-sama? Kakashi, Anbu codenamed Dog, quickly stood ramrod straight as he verbalized his report. The 3 Anbu on the ground decided to, as per their words, take justice into their own hands and tried attacking Naruto. Seeing their intentions, I immediately subdued them non-lethally, he spoke professionally. Behind his porcelain mask, his one open eye glanced towards the newborn before quickly looking back towards the angry Hokage in front of him. Take them to the interrogation room, Hiruzen commanded, anger and disappointment of equal measure in his voice. Let them know the hefty price of trying to harm Konoha's hero. In clouds of smoke, Kakashi's shadow clones burst into existence, each of them grabbing the restrained Anbu and taking them away to the interrogation department to await torture and punishment for their treasonous actions. Kakashi stoically stood where he was, not budging as the wizened Hokage walked in front of him as he headed towards the wooden crib that held the little figure of Naruto in it. Dog, no, Kakashi, Hiruzen spoke, his eyes not letting off Naruto's sleeping figure. Would you like to take care of him? Kakashi stood silent, his emotions hidden behind his porcelain mask. As an ANBU, the elite of the elite, they were trained to hide their emotions, suppressing them with all their might to prevent them from stopping them in their duty to the village. Yet right now, his eyes were looking elsewhere, desperately avoiding the tiny hero in the crib. Hiruzen said nothing within the deafening silence, understanding the lack of an answer from him. Kakashi was the fourth Hokage's student. After his father's suicide, Kakashi drove himself further into training and missions. The only respite he had was his teacher, Namikaze Minato, Naruto's father, whom he considered his own father after a time. Finally, the professor spoke. "Dog, you're off duty now. You can remove that mask." Kakashi stood stoically as he heard his leader's command. Yet a slight tremble shook his hand as his hand reached for his mask. Slowly he held it before removing it, revealing the mask beneath the mask. Most of his face was covered by a blue cloth, except for his eyes, one of which was closed with a massive scar running over it. Underneath that mask, he could be called a handsome person, if only he would reveal his face to the world. Kakashi understood the Hokage's words, including their underlying meaning. He was not talking to him as one of his men, but as a fellow human. He hesitated. "I can't." His one open eye barely glanced at the tiny newborn within the crib, covered with a clean sheet. He reminds me too much of his father," Kakashi said as his eyes diverted away from the baby's small tuft of blonde hair, hesitation and sadness clear behind his voice. Here, in front of the wizened Kage with no one around, was the only place where he could show his feelings openly. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Hiruzen replied, a smile on his face. "My beloved Biwako was also killed. I do not blame anyone for it. Have we found anything there?" "Nothing whatsoever," Hiruzen spoke as he shook his head. "Kurumi was not a bijou that attacked people. Minato, from his marriage with the red-headed Kushina, became close to the bijou within her, considering her a good friend who would help, not attack. And from what he knew, even Mito-sama said that she was just misunderstood." "Mito-sama once said so as well? Then what happened?" Kakashi asked. Inwardly his blood boiled. The thought of his teacher, Minato's, death brought anger to his heart, yet he smothered it with discipline and strength. Being Minato's last remaining student, the blonde-haired Hokage told him that the bijou were just misunderstood, and that they were all nice, and only humanity's actions towards them made them what they were. "I have no idea," Hiruzen spoke. "No trace remained of anyone that attacked, and the only witnesses, aside from little Naruto, are dead." Kakashi's eye glanced at the baby before he quickly looked sideways, his grief affecting him so badly he nearly fled the room just to get away from his teacher's legacy. "So what happens to him now? Who will take care of him?" he asked. "I cannot, for I will be far too busy with Konoha's restoration," Hiruzen answered. "His godfather, Jiraiya, is out of the village, managing his spy network. And I believe he would not be a good choice for a father anyway, what with his activities." Everyone knew of Jiraiya, the self-proclaimed super pervert. A man with immense skill in the ninja arts, he was a seal master of the highest caliber, not to mention a Kage-level ninja, one of the strongest alive and one of the elemental nation's best spy masters. Yet his habit of peeking into the women's baths for research for his smutty book, the Ika Ika Paradise series, did not make him the best candidate to be a parent, something that Hiruzen's late wife Biwako would wail on him for in the afterlife were the Kage to allow him to become one. Finally, the wizened Hokage reached a decision. "I will place him in the orphanage," Hiruzen continued, holding the urge to reach for his pipe within his desk to reduce the stress he felt building within his head. "We need to hide his identity as the last inheritor of Yuzu and one of the last Uzumaki alive, not to mention his identity as the son of the Yellow Flash himself," he added before he stood up, Kakashi watching him all the while. "He will mingle with the other kids, learn as they learn. He will have to be content without knowing his identity until he's strong enough to defend himself from assassination attempts." Kakashi just nodded. Just like the old man, Kakashi knew of Konoha's hospitality and their caring spirit. It gave Konoha the title of friendliest village amongst the people, something that he's proud to be a part of. But he just cannot bear to look at his teacher's son, not now. Maybe one day, after time healed the massive wounds in his heart, then he could watch him. But for now, he cannot. "When will he be placed there?" "Tomorrow," Hiruzen answered, taking out his ornate tobacco box from within his drawer. Kakashi nodded in understanding as the Hokage lit the scented tobacco within his pipe with a small fire-release jutsu, letting the smoke waft within the room, covering everything with its delectable smell. "I'll pass him to the matron tomorrow morning." Kakashi just nodded, agreeing with his choice. Unknown to both of them, sinister forces were working their hands behind their backs, paving the way for a terrible future. Despite Naruto's status as a Biju's prison, a Jinchuriki, being deemed by the reinstated Hokage an S-rank secret of Konoha, the members of Konoha's civilian council, a council that handled Konoha's civilian matters, who received this knowledge during the sudden council meeting began spreading the forbidden knowledge of Naruto being the demon's prison under hushed murmurs and silent rumors. Naruto's parentage being conveniently omitted from the forbidden information spread due to the counselor's hatred of the child. Eventually the whispers mutated, facts broke into lies, and in just one night, the entirety of Konoha knew of the so-called demon child, the demon with a human infant's form, wanting their sympathy for the chance to destroy them in the future, and they would not let such a child live a happy life. Oblivious to the spread of such foul thoughts, Hiruzen brought little Naruto to the matron of one of Konoha's orphanage, the numbers having grown overnight from the destructive attack done by the Kyuubi. The matron's cheeks were red and wet with tears, yet she was smiling as best as she could despite the manner of terrible event that had befallen her during the attack, something that made Hiruzen's heart sting with pain, the assault on his beloved village still fresh in his mind. As he handed him over to the sad yet smiling matron, a feeling of happiness spread through his heart at the warmth the matron displayed in her eyes as she received the tiny figure of Naruto. As he left, he believed with all his heart that he made the right choice in passing Naruto to the orphanage. As the figure of the sandaime left the compound of the overflowing orphanage, the matron's smile quickly turned into a look of scorn as she glared at the demon child, the murderer of her family. An errant swipe of its tail destroyed her son's house, erasing it without even a thought. No one survived the massacre. Not her son, his wife, nor her grandchildren. Nothing. Their bloody bodies were dug up from the rubble, her son's body completely mutilated beyond recognition. Only his face, locked in absolute terror, let her know it was him. "I may have to care for you," she whispered, her tears falling again. But this time, her face was filled with utter rage and hatred at the infant in her arms. "But I will make your life terrible. You will pay for every second you hurt me and everyone in Konoha. I will not kill you." She shook her head. "No, death is too easy for you. I will make sure you suffer as much my son did. I will make sure of that." And so began Naruto's life in a man-made hell, born from a person's hatred, as the matron did her best to keep her promise. A baby was supposed to be cared for, full of love, for they were a new life, born to the world by their parents. Yet Naruto's early days were anything but. During his first couple of days he was starved, not getting any nutrition at all. As a baby, he did what babies did, he cried. Again and again his tearful shriek echoed throughout the halls of the orphanage, his tiny body flailing on the cold, rough earth that was his bed. He didn't even have the luxury of a proper room for him to sleep in, just a worn-out storeroom at the back of the orphanage. Yet the matron ignored his sorrowful tears, and when his screams got too unbearable for the old matron, she fed him, but in her own terrible way. She took a mug of hot milk and poured it directly over the screaming infant's open mouth. Her vengeful heart ignored the pain heard within the baby's choking sounds and pained tears. As she left the pained toddler, she glared. "That's barely a fraction of what my family went through, demon," she hissed before slamming the door to the tiny room that was Naruto's torture chamber. And that was only the beginning. For his first year he was barely given any food. They only gave him enough to survive, which basically meant that he was force-fed some of the foulest food ever given to a child, something his body couldn't even handle. With force beyond measure, they forced leftovers and sometimes even rotten food into his tiny body, hoping for him to be in immense pain at all times. In the first couple of months, most babies were plump with baby fat, having been fed well as they cried and cried for more of their favorite milk to be fed to them by their parents. But not Naruto. His body was gaunt and thin, almost starved to death. Even if he didn't starve, the food he ate nearly ensured his death even without the terrible feeding methods they performed on his tiny body. Children begin crawling when they're a couple of months old. Yet Naruto cannot even move his body, such was the terrible condition it was in. He could only roll over around the room, not even having the strength to crawl. His tiny room was dirty and filthy, the smell of blood and poop and piss hanging over the tiny room as maggots and flies surrounded his filthy, gaunt body. He never knew clothes, for they never bothered giving him any. The only reason he didn't die within the first week of his stay at the orphanage, ironically, was the presence of Kurumi within him. Kurumi, despite her terrible despair, quickly realized that she could sense the world outside through the seal on Naruto's navel, rendered invisible from Minato's excellent sealcraft. She could see what he saw, hear what he heard, and sense everything he experienced. A final gift from Minato and Kushina to her, something that made her smile sadly behind the massive bars that were her cage. Instead of sleeping like she usually did within Kushina and Mito, she decided to stay up. In tears, she made up her mind. She would teach him everything he needed to know about life, together with everything she learned of the ninja arts from all the Kages she had ever interacted with. He would grow up strong with her as company, something she vowed to herself. The first thing she saw when Naruto's eyes were open was the orphanage storeroom's worn roof as she heard Naruto crying from hunger like a baby should. From Naruto's eyes she saw that the entire room wasn't even a proper bedroom, but a tiny storeroom. An earthen floor and gaping wooden walls met her sight everywhere Naruto turned his head. As her mind held questions about the terrible condition Naruto was in, she caught sight of the matron as she entered from a similarly terrible door, a mug of steaming hot milk within her hands. Even Kurumi's undeveloped danger senses rang warning bells within her head as she saw the matron come closer to Naruto's body, her eyes almost glowing with hatred. Her mental alarms finally made sense as she held the mug over Naruto's head before her hand tilted it. Kurumi's eyes widened with fear as she saw, in slow motion, the white liquid fall on Naruto's tiny body. "No! What are you doing?" she screamed. Yet her cries went unheard, as Naruto's tiny figure was bathed in the hot liquid, the heat making him shriek even louder before he began choking, the hot milk keeping his throat from breathing properly, part of the milk entering his lungs, nearly drowning him. No! She screamed in terror as she began manipulating her powers. Living within 2 Kage-level ninjas taught her how to use her Yuki, demonic chakra, to heal them and boost their powers if they needed it. Yet due to their skills, she never needed to use it much. Immediately a wave of blood-red power exploded from her before it quickly moved like a sea of opaque crimson waters, flowing between the massive bars of the cage into the infinite darkness in front of her. She closed her eyes, guiding the power within Naruto's chakra system. Being a part of her, she could feel it wherever it went, whether outside or inside of Naruto. She hated her power. It always made her feel uneasy every time she used it, no matter with who or what for. The emotions her terrible power carried have always tried poisoning her mind with thoughts of death and destruction, something that she usually managed to hold back with the help of Minato. But what she hated most was the effect of the power. Its ability to manipulate and modify a biological structure was something that was too strong for anyone. It almost made her feel like a god, yet she knew, it's either she uses her powers or Naruto will die. And for her eternal life, she will never choose the latter. As the matron turned around and cursed Naruto's existence, she failed to notice the slight sheen of red glowing underneath Naruto's skin as Kurumi's powers circulated throughout him, activating his chakra core, located at one's navel as she did so. Like tiny hands, her powers spread through Naruto's body, letting her feel everything within him. Thanks to the medical knowledge taught to her by Hashirama to understand his medical ninjutsu, she had a good idea of how to help little Naruto. She knew that she cannot risk exposing the usage of her powers. The matron would immediately consider him a demon, and treat him worse than she already had. Not just that, ninja would swarm all over his location within seconds and immediately suspect the worst had happened. Naruto might be killed because of her actions. She needed to be extremely careful with her operations, and only using an extremely minute amount of power, only enough to heal him without causing it to radiate outwards. With her being a creature made of chakra, this came easily to her as breathing. Immediately her chakra made its way to his lungs, her senses registering the presence of milk within them. She went into action immediately, manipulating her powers towards the liquid. Her solution was as simple as brute force. She dismantled the liquid into materials usable to the body before quickly absorbing them into his blood. Within seconds her powers made short work of the milk, quickly breaking it down and absorbing it into his body. In the next couple of seconds, Naruto's lungs were cleared of the foreign material, every single drop of it absorbed into his body as Kurumi manipulated her powers elsewhere, healing his injured body. In less than a minute she finished, Naruto's tiny body healed as close to perfection as it could be. As she breathed out a sigh of relief, she recalled the time when Mito had her use her power on her body so that she could learn better about her corrosive, deadly power. She refused at first, worrying for her friend's safety, but Mito's insistence and Hashirama's safeguards meant that she could go wild within her body and still have no problems whatsoever with her. That event gave her knowledge of how to use her powers. She mentally glared at the matron even as she left. A feeling of absolute sadness struck her heart as she recalled her thoughts before the presence of the matron. "I'm sorry, Naruto," she cried. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't attacked Konoha, you wouldn't have to live like this." And she could tell from the matron's glare that it would only get worse. "Don't worry, Naruto," she said as softly as her growling demonic voice allowed her to. "I'll be with you all the time. I'll heal you if they hurt you and be with you when you're lonely. I'll always be with you. So please don't think you're alone." She stood herself steady, becoming Naruto's sentinel and guard, his only companion within the cruel world he ended up in. "And it will probably get worse, judging from the glare that woman sent at you." She could not even imagine how right she was. During the first couple of days she was absolutely, utterly horrified by how they treated the little child. Food was roughly stuffed into his mouth. Food that wasn't for babies. If not for her helping Naruto digest said food quickly, he would have choked to death. Rotten food not even suited for dogs was fed to him as they continued their inhuman torture, and only her timely healing attempts prevented him from dying. After the first couple of months, both her and Naruto's tears had dried completely, with Naruto having no water to cry out and Kurumi having already cried non-stop for a month. She killed the maggots that buried themselves within Naruto's filthy body, forcefully absorbing them to use as nutrients. She helped digest everything they fed Naruto, no matter how rotten, poisonous, or filthy it was. Her powers flowed almost continuously through Naruto, preventing him from dying and both feeding and healing him. If not for Minato and Kushina loosening the seal on her new cage so much that she could use her powers, Naruto would have been dead on the first day of his life. And for that she thanked the couple, lacking the tears to cry out in thanks. Her efforts gave rise to unprecedented side effects, however. The constant flow of corrosive and deadly Yuki through his body damaged and healed it again and again, making him tougher. His body could survive more punishment than he ever would have otherwise. The Uzumaki were always known as the clan of longevity due to their strong life force and their powerful chakra, Yet Naruto's forced enhancements overshadowed even the rest of his kin. By the end of his first year, Naruto, despite the malnourishment and frailness of his body, was living on, albeit most of his injuries were patched with nothing but Yuki. Yuki powered every one of his cells, preventing them from dying. He survived the perilous weather of the elemental nations on nothing but a diet of Yuki and fallen raindrops and snow. Every single thing that could be done to help him was done by Kurumi, all to redeem herself and let her charge live to see the next day. Her skill level with her powers skyrocketed as Naruto's tiny body became her experimental bed, analyzing every single thing about him to ensure that he didn't die a horrible death from their inhuman treatment. And in the process of healing Naruto, she learned about humans, how their body works, what manner of chemical reactions took place, and its reaction to the myriad of things he was fed with. She knew more about the human body than even the best of medic scholars from Naruto. Only Kurumi's extreme restraint against her massive amount of power prevented every single ninja in Konoha from being alerted to her actions, a feat akin to holding back an entire ocean with a tablespoon. And he grew up despite their cruelty, a sickly, skinny, 1-year-old boy. Enraged with his growth despite everything she put the demon child through, the matron began a new form of torture. She began hitting Naruto's body physically, tears falling down from her eyes every time as she recalled her son, how he was crushed underneath his own home, memories from their times together replaying in her mind, giving rise to despair and rage within her. Every time her hands hit his body, she pictured her child. Her beloved child, the one she carried for months within her. The child that grew up to be a good person, never wronging anyone. The child that gave her 3 cute grandchildren. They all perished, her mind constantly picturing the massive debris that crushed them all, silencing them completely. In the face of such an imagined pain, she believed with all her heart that the relatively benign punishments she did were nothing but an annoyance to the demon in human form. Other kids learn how to walk and to speak their baby tongue at a year old. At a year's age, Naruto learned nothing at all. His throat was torn so many times from crying himself sore that he would have lost his ability to speak if not for Kurumi, who healed him continuously, supporting his body with nothing but Yuki and the scraps of food they tossed to him. And every time she cried of Naruto's horrifying life, she wondered, where had the Sandaime gone? Where did the old man, so gentle and friendly, the student of Mito's late husband, go? Does he not know of any of this? The life he inflicted on Naruto? Unbeknownst to her, the Sandaime was too busy to visit. Every waking moment was spent trying to patch up the destruction caused by her attack. There were men to replace, missions to conduct, and people to meet. Every part of him was busy trying to shore up their defenses and their reputation. Konoha couldn't be seen as weak, no matter how, for that would invite an even worse fate unto them. Every day he strove to strengthen Konoha, letting everyone know that they are not a village to be trifled with. There was nothing that he loved more than his village. A year passed with Naruto being tormented by the matron. Naruto had nothing to cry about anymore, with his mouth unable to mutter even the most basic of words. Only gurgles akin to someone on death's door came out. The matron's cold eyes ignored the immense pain the little baby went through from her treatment, only vengeance and pain in her heart. And during this time, he finally met his guardian demon within. Break. Naruto's eyes fluttered open, having gone dark mere moments ago. The last thing he heard before his eyes went dark was a loud crack that echoed within the small room that was his torture chamber before his mind shut down on itself. Slowly his eyes opened, revealing to him a strange world unlike anything he ever saw before. Infinite darkness stretched out in front of him, revealing nothing. Faint light shone behind him, coming from a series of tiny, flickering torches mounted on the massive walls of a tunnel. His body was lying in a shallow layer of water that smelled like him, the darkness preventing him from correctly observing the color of the waters. Yet he could hear the sound of something splashing on the fetid and smelly waters close by. Slowly, as his eyes got used to the encompassing darkness of his surroundings, he could finally see around him. Or rather, what was directly in front of him. Right in front of him stood a gigantic gate, its massive golden bars reaching high into the infinite darkness above him. The gates were bound in a single spot, a massive flat bar in contrast to the cylindrical ones beside it, with a simple paper talisman with the kanji 4 seal on it holding the gate from opening. Naruto had no strength left to move his body as the splashes grew stronger, nor did he make a sound, knowing that any sound he did would only be construed as a reason to thrash him harder. He weakly looked towards where the patter of steps on the viscous water came from, and slowly, the source of the sound revealed itself. A gigantic animal towered over Naruto's tiny figure, its blood-red color painting a menacing look. It was so large that Naruto's tiny mind couldn't even comprehend the sheer size of the being. Yet he could only look with minimal reaction, his horror muted from all that he had been through. Slowly he groaned, unable to properly talk. Grrrgh, Naruto! The massive animal shouted to him. The water behind the bars splashed noisily as the sound of something falling on its surface echoed within the massive sewer. Thank the gods you're safe. The animal yelled, fear and gratefulness in equal measure in its voice. She broke your ribs just now. I managed to hold you together long enough to heal you. You're lucky you have me in you. She teased, though sadness and pain colored her words. Naruto just looked at this massive animal blankly, nothing running through his mind. How could he understand what was going on? He never was capable of any conscious thought. His day consisted of nothing but pain. How was he supposed to feel surprised at this? His first thought was that this thing was out for him. His inner spirit as utterly crushed by this point. It only hurts more if he resists. Since he did nothing then, he did the same now. Kurumi's blood-red eyes looked down towards the tiny figure on the wet floor, her tears falling into the sewers again, the droplets glittering with the flickering lights of the torches on the walls before splashing on the surface of the waters, disappearing into the terrible waters. How could they be so cruel to this child? Didn't they know about his heritage? He was their greatest hero, yet they treated him like trash. Kurumi immediately decided to start the next part of her previous promise. Now that she had him with her, she would begin to teach him in addition to keeping him alive. Slowly her tail snaked through the massive bars, and once again she thanked Minato for his decision to weaken the seal for her to interact with Naruto more easily. The seal's weakness was probably the reason Naruto ended up in here, the massive trauma from the near-lethal damage sending him straight into a coma even with her recovery effort. If not for the change, she would not be able to even come close to the bars. She nearly cried once more when Naruto's spread eagle body slightly flinched as her fluffy white-tipped tail came closer to his prone body, his reaction causing tiny waves to ripple from his place on the floor. Naruto just looked at the massive tail coming at him, something different this time instead of the usual torment. A moment passed, but instead of bone-crunching pain, he felt something soft surround him. Something soft, warm, and gentle, it tenderly caressed his tiny body. Yet he still twitched in fear and imaginary pain as thousands of tiny furs began covering him, keeping him warm within the cold surroundings of this strange place he ended up in. With a single soft tug he felt his body rise, being lifted from the foetid waters by the same thing that warmed him. Slowly, gradually, he could feel his body going higher and higher. Yet unlike the time with the matron, this feeling was different. Calmer, more affectionate, and warmer, something he'd never felt before. The heat spread throughout his tiny form, slowly calming down the nervous twitches in his body, a natural reaction after such a terrible life. Higher and higher it brought him, up until he reached the animal's head. And there Naruto saw this massive thing that was with him. The thing's head was fox-like, yet a pair of long, rabbit-like ears was on its head. Tearful crimson eyes met dead blue ones as Kurumi stared into Naruto's own eyes. She did nothing else, just wrapping Naruto with a cocoon made of her tail, staring straight into Naruto's eyes at all times, never once breaking eye contact with him as she felt his tiny body within her tail. "Naruto," she began. "I know you don't understand me. And I don't think you know your name yet. But I am here with you. I will teach you everything. I will always be with you. No matter what happens, I am here, Naruto. You can come here anytime. If they are hitting you, you can stay here. I'll make sure you'll be fine." Naruto just looked at her, not having anything to say to her. Kurumi let loose a slow sigh at this. She needed to start with the most basic of lessons, his name. Kurumi lifted her obsidian black claw and pointed towards the tiny baby in her tail. "Naruto." "Naruto," she slowly said, trying to get him to learn his own name. Naruto said nothing. Undeterred, she repeated her words. Again and again she voiced his name. She had nothing but time in here, and she knew that. Time and time again she repeated herself. Finally, she saw some reaction from Naruto after a long while of attempting to communicate with him. His lips parted and trembled slightly, so small it was almost invisible. Yet Kurumi's heart rose as her eyes widened, her happiness at Naruto's attempt to copy her clearly apparent. "Good, Naruto. Good." Again. Once again she continued her attempts, trying her hardest to get him to speak, no matter how little. She inexhaustibly continued, again and again, pointing towards her tiny charge repeatedly, trying to make him learn his own name. She had infinite patience as she did so, rewarding his every small attempt with a slow caress of her warm tail, something that Naruto found gentle and calming every time. "Oh," came Naruto's weak groan, his small voice sounding infinitely large to Kurumi within the empty, dank space, her face lighting up like 1,000 light bulbs just flashed to life underneath her skin. "Good. Good, Naruto." She wept happily. "Keep it up. Once more," she cried, tears of happiness falling down from her face, small flicks of her tail caressing Naruto's tiny body. He understood not why, but he felt safe and calm in her grasp. Again and again he tried copying her, his rarely used vocal cords doing their best to copy this nice being's speech. And so began a relationship between the two, a human and a demon, a jailer and its prisoner, in a world hidden to all. A loud whack echoed within the tiny room as a thin bamboo stick struck Naruto's tiny, emaciated figure, waking him up from his best dream ever. His body barely had the strength to move itself as the tiny rod whipped his body. "Wake up, demon!" came the voice of the matron, waking him up. Naruto could only roll weakly in response. The matron watched the worn boy without a shred of mercy in her heart, only contempt. Her other hand moved, spilling the plate of moldy rice she was carrying on him. The stench of the spoiled rice hovered within the filthy room, further adding to the noxious smell coming from the room. Yet the matron was not bothered by the foul odor, knowing that her insatiable anger was more important than her own comfort, and even more so when he could avenge her child's pain from this beast. "You're not worthy of food, demon," she hissed before she quickly turned around, the wooden door slamming behind her disappearing figure. Within his mindscape, Kurumi watched the disappearing of the matron, and she went to work immediately. Her power once again flooded within Naruto's tiny body, a slight glow emitting underneath his skin as she did so. Microscopic tendrils of Yuki reached towards the foul food that came to contact with Naruto's skin. It immediately went to work, dissolving the vile food and killing the bacteria on it before being absorbed into Naruto through his skin, the only way for him to receive his nutrition now. As she helped digest the rotten food for Naruto, she spread herself, her power reaching towards Naruto's skin, quickly healing his hurt body. Her powers made short work of the small wounds, mending them within seconds. It does not take long before Naruto's body recovered completely, and only his consciousness need to return to his body. Kurumi watched Naruto's prone figure in his mindscape through the massive bars of her cage, observing any sign of his return back to the realm of the conscious. His small chest barely moved as he took in the air around him, the filthy waters lapping on his body making small splashing noises within the dimly lit mindscape. Minutes passed, yet Naruto didn't move a single muscle, still lying where he was on the waters. Kurumi's worry began to grow as she saw his lack of movement. "Naruto?" she asked slowly, trying to call him back to wakefulness. "Naruto? Are you awake?" she whispered again, hoping to all gods above that he would survive. Worried, a tail of hers slipped between the massive bars, slowly reaching towards his prone body. Slowly her fluffy tail reached Naruto. In a single move her tail swept him up on it before she carried him slowly towards her cage, straight towards her face. She brought her snout closer towards him before taking a deep whiff of him. Still alive, came the result of her analysis. Her tongue stretched towards him, licking him, while taking extreme care not to send him flying from her massive tongue. "Naruto, wake up," she whispered within his ears, trying to rouse him up. Slowly but surely, she saw that she was having an effect on him. His body lightly stirred, the muscles of his arm twitched to wakefulness. In moments his eyelids fluttered, showing that he was awake. Unable to move, he just gurgled lightly on his spot on Kurumi's tail. "Ugh, sure, Naruto, don't say anything," she spoke before she stretched a second tail towards him. The unnaturally flexible tail stretched on him before she began stroking him lightly, warming his mental image. Yet only in here, within the relative safety of his mind, did Naruto felt safe for the first time in his life. And buoyed by Kurumi's gentle ministrations he slept, his body enjoying the warmth and feel she brought him. Kurumi smiled at this sight. This is what a child should do, sleeping calmly within someone's gentle hold, not having to survive through a terrible life day in and day out. She continued her actions, slowly stroking Naruto's body like he's a cat, making sure that he had a good sleep, even if it's just in his mind. "Sleep, Naruto," she slowly spoke with a sad smile on her face, tears pooling within her massive eyes. "Sleep and heal." And Naruto, not understanding her words, kept on sleeping, as befitting that of a toddler. Break. The matron walked through the corridors of her orphanage, her mind still thinking towards the demon. Her mind was filled with anger and sadness, as she once again recalled the sight of her only son, found underneath the rubble of his home. Only the fact that the orphanage was located far away from the rampaging demon saved her life. And she still felt its terrible power, and now, she was avenging her son, to let the demon feel the same pain he would have felt where he was. "Mom?" The voice of a little girl snapped her out of her bitter thoughts. Immediately her eyes snapped towards the source of the voice. A girl, wearing worn clothes 2 sizes too big for her, stood in front of the matron, hugging the teddy bear she was holding tight. The matron's rage evaporated at the sight of one of her charge, her eyes still slightly bleary from being awoken quite early. She kneeled down, putting the best smile she had on her face. "Hello, Mayan," she said happily, putting a hand on the little girl's shoulder. "You just woke up?" "Uh-huh," she replied with a nod of her head. "Everyone's still sleeping." "I'll wake them up," she replied with a smile. But as she stood to wake the kids, she was stopped by a small tug at her trousers, causing her to look at the little girl, now named Mayan, once more. "What is it, Mom?" she began, but quickly stopped as her face turned sideways, avoiding her stepmother's loving gaze. "What is it, Mayan?" She kneeled again, one hand on her shoulder as the other patted her tiny head. "Just say it, Mayan," came her gentle words. "You know I won't get angry with you." "But you're angry just now," she slowly said. "You're never angry, am I?" she replied with a smile, yet her mind immediately began spinning in turmoil from what the little girl said. But she managed to find a good reply to her own question. "I am, but I'm not angry at you," she said, slowly rubbing her head. "I'm angry at someone else." "At who?" She remained silent, thinking of an answer to her disarming question. "It's not at you, which is what matters," she replied, once again patting her head gently. "But don't come at the back of the house," she advised, her hand pointing towards the back of the orphanage building. "A demon lives there, and I'm holding it back." "A demon?" "Yes," she nodded. "It's very evil, and if you come close to it, it might poison your mind. So don't come near." "Okay," the little girl replied with a smile. She knew that demons are bad, and you shouldn't play around with it or close to it. I'll tell the others as well. Please do, the matron replied with a nod of her head as she watched the little girl skip away towards her fellow orphans, her figure following right behind her. Before she left, she shot one last glare towards Naruto's cage. I will protect the kids from you, demon, she whispered. You will not harm them. Not when I'm still breathing. Her footsteps immediately quickened as she attempted to catch up to her speedy charge. Mayan, wait for me, she called out towards the girl, watching her disappear to the upper floors of the orphanage. Break. A long time, at least to the accelerated time within one's mindscape, passed by before Naruto woke up. His eyes weakly looked sideways, meeting Kurumi's massive eyes, each larger than he was. Good morning, Naruto, she spoke, a smile on her vulpine face as she continued her gentle caresses of Naruto's battered body. Naruto heard her soft voice calling out his name. And just for the second time in his short life, he felt truly safe, that no one could harm him. His eyes quickly opened, showing energy forcefully hidden from the world in his bright blue eyes. And within those eyes, a feeling of happiness shone within them. He cooed slowly, enjoying her gentle ministrations once more, something he always loved. Kurumi smiled again. His face, despite the bad life he was in, was calm and relaxed when she was with her, something that soothed her pained heart. I caused this life to you, Naruto. Let me help you. Naruto said nothing. Let's begin your tutorial for today, shall we? Your name first. Once again, she pointed her claw to Naruto. Nah, Naruto heard her voice and remembered yesterday's session. He knew not what she said, but he instinctively knew what to do. He just needed to imitate her words as best as he can. His lips trembled as he tried to speak a part of his name again. Yet as he did, nothing came out from his mouth but a small growl, sounding more like a nasal dog's bark than anything. Yet he endured, pushing ahead. Again and again he attempted to speak his name as Kurumi slowly taught him, her patience boundless in teaching Naruto his name, even if it's just a small part of it. Hours seemed to pass as she slowly taught him how to speak. Finally, her patience was rewarded. Nah, he spoke finally, a cheerful glow within his eyes as he stared straight into Kurumi's eyes. Her eyes widened as she heard his small voice. Good. She happily cheered for the little boy. Now continue. Ru. She quickly spoke, continuing her teaching. Her eyes cried tears of happiness as Naruto smiled as he followed her words, doing his best to copy her. A huge smile on her face shone with her happiness as she tirelessly taught Naruto his words. And within the time dilation the mindscape offered, Naruto finally managed to say his own name. Immediately Kurumi started teaching Naruto how to speak her name next. And it does not take long as Naruto managed to learn her name next. Within the real world, the sun stood high on the sky as afternoon dawned on the elemental nations, the bright, warm light shining on Naruto's tiny body. And unseen by anyone, Naruto's lips trembled and moved, saying his and his guardian's name in a small, unheard breath, a slight smile appearing on his lips. Break. Bolstered by the success of her early teaching attempts, she began teaching Naruto more and more words, their names for starters. It is nearly impossible, seeing as how he was barely 2 years old, but never let it be said that Kurumi was not patient. She knew that this would only be the start. He at least needed to know how the words sound before she can teach him, though she might need a while before Naruto can grow enough to properly speak. The matron appeared once in a while, interrupting the moment between them as she fed Naruto her variant of food. Always thankful to moments like this, she immediately went to work, quickly digesting what foul manner of food the matron gave Naruto immediately. At the very least, he still survives, and that's most important. Whenever the matron began hitting Naruto, she never faltered, healing him back as best as she could with her powers, making sure every part of him remained intact after her beatings. At the very least, she was very thankful that there was no other terrible injury that Naruto sustained other than the one that sent him towards his mindscape immediately. And as time goes on, Naruto began looking forward to the times when he would end up in front of Kurumi. The malnourished, injured boy always liked the look and feel of Kurumi, because he knew that she was the only one that would treat him well. He loved the slow strokes of her soft tail, not to mention the fact that she spoke with him kindly, something that he really liked. He began regaining his spirit now, and even the matron's foul food and beatings won't be enough to remove the life he had now. Naruto reached her cage so often that he could almost reach her cage at will, appearing every time after the matron left. He quickly associated the matron with bad person, and always cowered every time she appeared. Kurumi immediately comforted him every time he appeared in front of her, gently embracing his mental representation with her soft fur, letting him calm down and sleep happily, his only sanctuary within the cruel world he ended up in. After another while, Kurumi added another course to her teaching. A simple, yet very necessary thing, how to walk. Break. Once again Naruto appeared in front of her cage after another feeding session from the matron. Kurumi's tail snaked towards him as usual, immediately eliciting a smile on his face and a cheer on his lips. But unknown to him, today was very different. Instead of coiling around his body like they regularly do, the tails wrapped around his arms this time. Naruto, Kurumi began explaining to him the current goal of his exercise. I need you to stand up and learn how to walk. This is a very important skill for your entire life. This will hurt a little, but it's necessary. Her eyes quickly squinted shut as her heart clenched in pain. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Naruto looked at her in confusion. She never did this. What was she planning? Me? He questioned slightly, not comprehending her actions. A slow pull caught his attention towards his tiny arms before his eyes quickly saw Kurumi's tails wrapping around his arms. Slowly the tails pulled upwards, lifting his arms towards the dark roof of his mindscape. Naruto slowly groaned as he looked straight towards Kurumi, a look of betrayal in his face as his body was slowly pulled by the arms, lifting his body off the surface of the water, the liquid dripping down, the tiny splashes echoing within the massive chambers. His body was forcefully lifted off the water's surface as he bent from his waist, using the muscles that he never used before. Pain shot through his body from his shoulders, his battered body not able to withstand the pulling Kurumi did despite his light weight. Me! He cried out, tears of pain flowing from his eyes, not expecting this betrayal of his best friend. I'm sorry, Naruto, Kurumi apologized again, understanding the massive pain he was in. But this is necessary. You must live. And you need to walk if you are to do so. Holding back her tears behind a weak facade, she tugged his arms once more. Slowly his behind left the water's surface, his unused legs dangling from his body as tears began flowing once more from his eyes. After a long, agonizing minute to Kurumi, she finally lifted Naruto's body straight. Immediately she lowered him down, letting his bare feet touch the waters. All right, Naruto, she spoke. Try to support your weight with your legs. A painful grimace was stuck on his face as his legs trembled, his straining arms taking his entire weight. Kurumi slowly lowered him, letting him put his body weight on his 2 legs. Yet his atrophied legs immediately lost its hold on the waters, causing him to slip. Naruto! Kurumi shrieked out, and in a knee-jerk reaction her tails tugged hard, pulling Naruto's already painful arms taut. Me! Came Naruto's painful shriek, a heart-wrenching sound within the silent corridors. I'm sorry! She quickly cried in response before she brought him down again. I'm sorry! But you need this. Try to stand, Naruto. You can do it. Despite his tears, Naruto's foot quickly found purchase on the slippery waters with Kurumi repeating the same process. A tail of hers went towards Naruto's head. Pain shot through her heart as she saw how the struggling Naruto flinched as her tail came closer, nearly brought her to tears. The tail gently caressed the tiny boy's tuft of dirty golden blonde head, trying to calm him down from his struggle. Naruto's grimacing face slowly calmed down as Kurumi's tails caressed him gently, steadying him down. Despite the pain present, his feet slowly gained a hold on the waters. Gently Kurumi slackened her hold, letting his feet hold his weight. She saw how his feet wobbled and shook as they tried to support Naruto's body, with his concentration now diverted towards his legs instead of the pain in his arms, as he felt this new sensation in his legs. Through her tails she felt Naruto's body steadying, having balanced himself on his legs. Slowly her tails let go of Naruto's tiny arms, letting his full weight be supported only by his trembling legs, though her tails hovered close to Naruto in case he fell. And now, she thought, everything is left to his own effort. For his part, Naruto stood shakily on his own legs, having never stood before. His arms instinctively spread wide beside him as he steadied himself, not wanting to face-plant into the water below. A smile slowly spread on his face as he felt his body on his 2 legs. The feeling spread quickly through his body, an euphoria unlike any other, as he stood shakily on his own legs. But weakness quickly overcame his joints before his legs lost their strength and folded, sending him straight towards the waters. Or he would be if not for Kurumi quickly catching his body with her tails, already expecting such an outcome as her tails immediately wrapped around Naruto, stopping his fall as she sighed in relief. Don't worry, Naruto, she said. You won't be able to walk properly right now. Try it slowly, then we can go faster, she spoke to Naruto. Yet even from her position, she could feel Naruto's strength as he slowly tugged her tails. His eyes burned with determination as his legs kicked the air hard, his mouth yelling his guardian's name. Kurumi's eyes widened as she saw Naruto's stubbornness before her eyes softened. Kushina Minato, your spirits live on in Naruto. He's every bit as stubborn as you were, Kushina, and every bit as smart as Minato was, she spoke slowly. Watch over us from where you are. Slowly she lowered the kicking Naruto on the water again, letting his legs slowly support his weight. But as soon as Kurumi released him, he immediately fell on the water. Naruto! She yelled, not fast enough to catch him. Yet Naruto weakly pushed his body up from the water's surface, his arms trembling from the exertion. Despite his weak body and lack of strength, it doesn't stop him from trying his hardest to stand up with his own strength, not a single tear falling from his face as he did so. He managed to push himself to a sitting position, legs on the surface of the water as his hands supported his body, trying to stand. Slowly he moved a leg forward, trying to kneel on the water. With a loud splash his foot stomped the surface of the water. Slowly the leg strained as Naruto pushed himself up. Slowly, steadily his trembling body rose. Higher and higher until his other leg snapped ahead, quickly pushing his body upwards in a burst of speed. Happiness spread through his face as he stood on his own power, his body straight, and his arms wide as he turned around and faced Kurumi, a massive smile on his face brightening the dark room with its brilliance. "Let me!" he yelled in his tiny voice. Kurumi chuckled as her tails wiped the tears at the corner of her eyes. "What an energetic boy you are, Naruto," she said slowly. "Nothing can keep you down, it seems." With a smile on her own face, she continued their tutorial. "All right, Naruto. Now it's time for you to walk slowly. Put a foot forward slowly, and I'll guide you," she spoke, continuing their lesson for the day with Naruto cheerfully following her orders. Break. Sarutobi Hiruzen was the third Hokage, the much-vaunted Sandaime, one of the oldest ninjas in existence, said to have been the master of every non-bloodline jutsu within Konoha. He was a master fighter with unparalleled skill and experience, having been in all three of the previous Shinobi World Wars. His name was feared and respected at the same time, his 2 terms as Hokage showing just how much his people believed in him. And yet, with all his skill and experience, he never had an answer to his mortal enemy, the one enemy that he absolutely cannot defeat no matter what or how. It came in like a wrecking ball, unstoppable, unrelenting, without mercy, without remorse. Nothing he could do would ever stop this one enemy, the strongest of any he'd fought in his long history. Paperwork. Huge stacks of paper piled in front of him on his table, reports from every single component of the massive machine that was Konoha. Every day reports streamed in from the various parts of Konoha. Requisition requests from his ANBU, requesting new equipment to replace their worn-out gear. Production reports from the military smiths, the result of the day's production. Mission reports from his ninjas, telling the results and occurrences within the missions they were assigned to. The civilian councils report on their daily activities and meetings. He would read everything before giving the report his Hokage's stamp of acknowledgement, and an approved or rejected result for the requests. Giving out a tired sigh, he stood up from his chair, stretching his old body. Sure, the chair is comfortable, but for someone that had sat in the same chair for hours on end, it still gave kinks on his old bones. His hand reached to his drawer, pulling out his usual favorite, his ornate wooden pipe, something he loved so very much. As he'd done many times before, he stuffed the pipe with his favorite scented tobacco before lighting it up, letting the sweet smoke waft within the room before he turned around towards the windows behind him, giving him a very nice view of the village he loved. The sun was setting from the sky, bathing the entire village in a beautiful golden hue, a scenic scene that only looked better the higher he was. Another puff of smoke came from his lips as he saw the ninja under his command leap from roof to roof, heading to their destination, something that reminded him of the current situation of his village. Due to Kurumi's attack, manpower was at an all-time low within Konoha. Immediately after her attack, Sarutobi ordered every ninja in retirement or rest to be deployed, replacing those who died. These include those in standby or those whose duty involved patrolling Konoha. Among those in charge of said duty were members of the Konoha Military Police. The Konoha Military Police was an organization whose main task was to keep peace within Konoha, resolving any crimes perpetrated by its people, be they ninja or civilian. Their members were the Uchiha clan, having been given full authority over the organization as a part of their deal during the formation of Konoha by the Shodai Hokage, as was their clan's right. Being the clan with the least casualties during Kurumi's attack, the men of the Konoha Military Police were taken from their duty to be absorbed into the main force to shore up their faltering manpower. This, combined with the ANBU missions he was forced to assign to his men, made their internal protection weaken, with less men patrolling the insides of Konoha. This would have weakened other villages from within, but Konoha had contingencies against such an event. A massive detection barrier made of seals, commanded by the Konoha Barrier Division, allowed them to detect any infiltrators coming through the walls or from the sky in the form of a massive chakra barrier around the village through the village's walls. His student Jiraiya's counterintelligence operations outside of Konoha also helped spread false information to the other villages, allowing them to look strong despite the attack of Abijah. The walls of Konoha, made by the Shodai with his Mokuton, were very tough walls that were alive, allowing them to heal themselves just by absorbing nutrients from the earth, a feat no one else could copy. He sighed out, blowing a cloud of smoke from his wrinkled lips. The lack of manpower also made him unable to assign guards to Naruto, and Kurumi's attack damaged the special crystal ball that he once used to monitor any part of Konoha, preventing him from knowing his current situation. Yet in his mind, he knew that Naruto would live just fine. The matron that took him in was a kind soul, and she will take care of him just fine, he reasoned with a small smile. How much would it hurt him when he found out how mistaken his trust was? His short break was interrupted by a small voice behind him, causing him to turn around and look towards this person interrupting his small break, only to meet the ANBU agent Dog, standing still with his mask on in the usual ANBU garbs, the skin-tight black shirt with a flak jacket covering it and a short tanto behind him tied at his waist. Hokage-sama, he spoke softly, his voice muffled and distorted from the mask. Dog, the Sandaime replied. Report. Mission successful, he answered steadily. Spying mission to Lightning Country successful. He took a scroll from within the weapons pouch at his back. This is my mission report together with the intel I gathered. He slowly placed the scroll on his table, making sure not to touch the towering stacks of paper. Only God knows what would happen if he were to cause the fall of the towering stacks of paperwork. Good, he said as he sat down, his pipe in his hand. For your completion of this long-term mission, you'll be retired from ANBU. No, Kakashi quickly rejected. What? Let me be in service to the ANBU, Hokage-sama. He quickly spoke. Kakashi, you've been in service for so long, Hiruzen spoke, trying to comfort the ANBU. Most only stayed in service for a short while. You are one of my most valuable men, Kakashi. Putting you in service for too long risks your psychological health, Hokage-sama, he began. This place it's still too painful for me, he spoke. I'll need some more time before I can be of full service to it. My loyalty is with Konoha forever, my lord, but it pains me to be here right now, Hiruzen sighed. All right. One more long-term mission, and you will be retired and return to the rank of Jounin to Konoha. I cannot ask for more, Hokage-sama, Dog spoke with a bow. Hiruzen stood up and grabbed a single paper among the massive pile on his table. Here's a mission for you, he said as he passed the paper to Dog. To guard the daughter of the daimyo of Snow Country, Koyuki Kazuhana. The daimyo himself requested this mission. This is an S-rank mission and will take you 3 years. I will require reports every month from you. You'll have a week of rest before going on this mission. Your will be done, Hokage-sama. Kakashi spoke with a bow before disappearing in a swirl of floating leaves, a small whoosh blowing through the room as he did so. Sarutobi sighed as he sat down, his mind pondering the boy he just met with. He really loved his teacher. His elbow touched one of the piles of paperwork on his desk accidentally, making them wobble dangerously as he looked at it in fear, his face paling as he saw this terrifying sight. Thank you for reminding me of this massive amount of work, he sighed loudly before he picked up his pen and the closest document to him before his aged eyes began reading the document. A Hokage's work was never done, it seems. Break. In a short while, Naruto had already learned to walk thanks to Kurumi's teachings. During night time, when the orphanage was asleep, he woke up from his training session and slowly walked around his cage, being urged by Kurumi's voice echoing in his head. He may not be able to understand her as of yet, but he knew what she wanted him to do. Every morning he quickly stopped his walks, lying down in his usual pose, on the ground with his cheerful smile hidden from them. Seeing how receptive Naruto was towards her teaching, she began having him do exercises to strengthen his body and train his muscles, making sure they were strong enough for everything he needed in the future. Just like how she taught him how to walk, she wrapped her tails around his limbs and guided him to move them in ways he never knew. And after her tutorial on walking, he knew better now, instinctively following the movements she moved his body through before performing the same movements during the night in silence. He continued the same routine for months, silently building up his body and strengthening it, using his 5 senses, enhanced from Kurumi's presence within him, to ensure that no one was up and around as he trained his body, only stopping when the morning came. It does not take long before Naruto's energetic nature shone as he silently but quickly tiptoed within his tiny room, a bright smile on his face as he moved his body. Unbeknownst to him, almost everything in his body was supported by Yuki. His cells and organs, having been repeatedly damaged by the beatings he went through, were only held together by Kurumi's Yuki and prayers. Even his growth was nothing more than her Yuki building him up. It miraculously worked, possibly due to the same reason her father considered her powers the most special amongst her siblings. And it all finally came to a head, one stormy day. It was a dark and stormy night, one that perfectly mirrored the emotions and thoughts running within the aged matron as she sat at the windowsill of the orphanage's kitchen. Her eyes stared a mighty distance outside the open window, the slight raindrops falling on her not bothering her. A small saucer was visible in her hand. The smell of alcohol hung heavy within the kitchen, a sign that she had been drinking. If light was present, one could see that she had a dark blush on her aged cheeks, a sure sign that she was drunk. She looked at the dark, cloudy sky, the heavy rain around her acting as soothing music to her troubled heart. Tonight was a special day for her. Tonight was the night of her son's birthday. Before, her son would take her out for some dinner at a fancy restaurant somewhere within Konoha, where he would always invite her to stay at his home and to leave the orphanage to those younger. And as always, she would reject him, and told him that taking care of orphans were her calling. And as usual, he'll sigh, telling her how much of a stubborn old goat she was. And she would just smile, knowing that he meant no insult in those words. But not this year, or the year before. This year, she was alone in the orphanage, with no one around to talk to. No one called her out today for a good meal. Only her, and the nearly empty bottle of sake she had in her hand, the finest from Rice Country. She poured another saucer full of the spirit, and quickly dunked it, feeling the burn the alcohol did as it passed through her throat. Why do I have to care for that demon? She slurred, her mind thinking towards the demon within her orphanage. It should just die. She hiccuped, her voice drowned within the heavy rain that fell on her roof. It killed my Shan. Within her drunk mind, she thought back of the demon in human form she cared for. Why didn't it die? She questioned herself. I gave it Lach. She fed it some of the foulest thing she had, and even beaten the tiny demon. Yet it still lived, almost as if her actions had no effect. It should die. As time passed, the thought of just killing the demon grew even more appealing to her. She stumbled away from the windowsill, one hand still clutching the ceramic bottle of sake with the other holding the saucer. She wobbled towards the back door of the kitchen before kicking it hard. The door swung open at the same instant. Thunder flashed on the sky, the intense boom of it becoming the background music to her actions. With another loud kick, she smashed the door to Naruto's little torture chamber, the heavy rain following her entry into the small room. Naruto was tottering on his tiny legs, trying his best to practice walking within the small room in secret. Kurumi should be able to detect the thick smell of liquor and her loud movements, yet the torrential rain and Naruto's valiant and successful effort at trying to walk deadened Naruto's, and consequently her, senses, and they were caught completely unaware as the matron smashed through the door, revealing her drunk, soaking wet figure to the surprised Naruto, who immediately met her stare with his own baby eyes. She strode within the shack, slow and wobbly yet purposeful. Naruto could only stand rooted where he was, not able to react to the presence of the bad person within his small shack. She slurred as she saw Naruto's standing figure. And in the blink of an eye, her hand swung downwards. The massive bottle of sake smashed on little Naruto's head, breaking it into 1,000 pieces as the force of the blow sent Naruto to the ground, a loud cry of pain escaping his lips. His scalp was torn from the powerful blow, his blood flowing within the tiny room as he slumped on the ground wordlessly. "Nuh!" Kurumi screamed from within as she saw the drunk matron smash the huge bottle on Naruto's face. Needing no further prompting, her powers explode from her into Naruto's system as she quickly began fixing Naruto's immense injuries. "Demon!" She screamed at the top of her lungs as another bolt of thunder erupted at the sky, shining on her maniacal face. Quickly she swung her leg, kicking the tiny boy into the wooden wall of the shack. His back nearly tore open from her kick. "Bring me back my son!" Again and again she stomped on Naruto's body, nothing in her mind but to hurt the demon as bad as she can. "Stop! Please stop!" Kurumi pleaded within him, her tears flowing into the muck that was Naruto's mindscape. "Please someone, stop her!" Yet her pleading went unnoticed within the massive thunderstorm. Even as she pleaded, she does not sit idle, her powers already circulating within Naruto's chakra coil to heal him. Broken ribs, torn muscles, ruptured organs, she whispered to herself as her powers diagnosed the condition of Naruto's body on the fly, forcing her to immediately apply her power towards the areas needing critical attention. "Please someone, stop her," she begged, still, her tears falling non-stop from the terrible pain Naruto went through. The matron continued her beating, oblivious to her pleading cries. Again and again she stomped on Naruto's broken body, tears of anguish pouring from her eyes. "Jibe me back my Shan! Give him back to me!" she howled, her drunkenness further fueling her madness. Another kick landed on Naruto's tiny body, once again sending him flying towards the wall, the sound of his body hitting the wall muffled by the raging storm outside the hut. "He won't come back!" She screamed futilely within Naruto, her tears falling without any sign of slowing down even as she labored hard to restore Naruto's body. "Even if you kill Naruto, your son won't come back!" Her pleading cries echo within the dark expanse of Naruto's mindscape, known only to her. It's my fault. Don't drag Naruto into this. Punish me. Not him." She finally stopped her cruel beating and took a step back on the drenched ground, panting hard from the exertion. She looked at her resulting carnage with a certain satisfaction to her. At the other edge of the room lay Naruto's broken, battered body, his blood spattered across the wet room from her terrible beating. The baby lay unmoving, not a shred of consciousness within him. The matron's tears still flowed as she left Naruto's dead body where he was. She quickly turned around before she spat on Naruto's body, a final act of cruelty on his fragile body before she finally left, the wooden door slamming behind her. Kurumi never stopped healing even as she glared at the matron from within Naruto. Her powers circulated around Naruto's chakra coils, reaching towards every part of his battered body. "Hang on, Naruto! I'll save you!" She need not say it, for her powers had already circulated within his body, stimulating and mending the injuries together, making sure that everything within his body was properly patched together. But there's something strange, something that confused her. Usually, her power flowed smoothly within his chakra system, ensuring that she could heal him no matter the injury. Unlike before though, the flow felt sluggish and slow, almost as if there's a resistance that prevented it from moving. She pondered this issue for a while even as she compensated for the damned flow, guiding what remains of her power. She barely had the time to think about the mysterious issue with the chakra flow when Naruto's prone body suddenly jerked as taut as a drawn bowstring. His entire body convulsed straight as his mouth opened wide. A wordless scream of pain tore through his entire body, the deathly shriek drowned by the raging storm outside. Kurumi's powers immediately reported to her of this occurrence, quickly reminding her of a disease named tetanus. Yet she knew that she killed foreign bacteria and dissolved any chemicals that even had a change of affecting Naruto. Then why was he having this tetanus-like attack? Quickly she mobilized more of her power, spreading within his body to check his condition, her Yuki the only thing that prevented his death. A powerful wave of force blew out of nowhere within the darkness of Naruto's mindscape, blowing out all the flickering candles that provided what meager light within the mindscape, drowning Kurumi in utter darkness so black she cannot even see her hand even with her enhanced senses. But what terrified her most was that her power was mysteriously blocked from spreading out. Fortunately, she still had a smidgen of her power outside her cage, still within Naruto. She immediately attempted controlling the small pockets of power that was still available within Naruto's body, and used what was not at a lethal injury to analyze the condition of Naruto's body. And what she found out was more horrifying than she could ever predict. A massive corruption was spreading throughout his chakra coil beginning from his chakra core, right where chakra was molded and made. The spreading corruption nearly burned the entirety of Naruto's chakra core, almost entirely destroying his ability to produce chakra to survive. And without it, she saw how parts of his body began breaking down, the very energy it needed to survive destroyed. Nearly every part of Naruto's body was held by Yuki, slightly laced with his own chakra that was pulled together with the Yuki to ensure compatibility and lack of rejection. And as Naruto's chakra core began burning out, his natural chakra began fading out into nothingness, causing the tissues to quickly break down, her corrosive Yuki eating through them. "Nuh!" she screamed out at the top of her lungs. Immediately she pulled back every single strand of Yuki that she had within Naruto's body, diverting them towards the location where his chakra was the strongest now that his chakra core was damaged. With each single flow of her Yuki within his chakra network, she could feel them slowly tear on his coils, wearing them down greatly. Only her intense control made her succeed at transferring all the chakra towards the most intense location of chakra, the gate of death of the 8 inner gates, right at his heart. Even so, she could already observe his heart began breaking down, having barely enough chakra to prevent the damage from her Yuki. Her efforts bore fruit as she saw how the damage at his chakra system slowed down, though the damage that was repaired before remained and only getting worse as the parts lost the very material that made them hold together in the first place. Her entire effort to keep Naruto alive never looked more worthless than it was now. Whyy? She screamed to the infinite darkness. Immediately she recalled something that Mito once taught her before regarding the nature of Yuki. It is corrosive by nature, and for a Jinchuriki to use the power of the bija sealed within them properly, they need a huge amount of safeguards. And most Jinchuriki were made when they're young because only they had the ability to adapt to the powerful Yuki. Mito was capable of sealing Kurumi even when she was relatively old because she is an Uzumaki who naturally had a stronger chakra that can counter the effects of her Yuki, and because she had a huge amount of safeguards to ensure her safety. Naruto, meanwhile, was too young to fully adapt to the huge amount of corrosive chakra flowing within him on a daily basis, had too little chakra to reduce the effect of her Yuki, and his seal lacked the same safeguards that was used on Mito because Kurumi was his parents' friend. All of this overloaded his chakra core, and it's a testament to the Uzumaki blood's legendary life force that allowed him to survive nearly 2 years in such a way. Yet everything had its limits, and Kurumi flooding his body with so much Yuki was the last straw. She was speechless as the facts lined up within her mind, finally realizing the reason for Naruto's terrible injury just now, only compounded by the matron's drunken beating. Kurumi was shaken to her very core, for it was her own goodwill that nearly tore Naruto's body apart. Yet she knew that it was not the time to whine and moan, for she needed to find a solution to the problem, and she needed it fast. She estimated that she had barely hours before Naruto's chakra core fully disintegrates, killing him. Right now, at the very least, most of his tenketsu around his navel where the chakra core was located was already compromised, so she cannot supply any more Yuki if she needed to. She only had a relatively small amount to work with, and she needed to fix his chakra network fast. Her tears haven't stopped nor did they slow down, but she knew she needed to be quick about it. He was the last surviving Uzumaki and Namake's clan member, a daughter of her best friend, and most importantly, her atonement. If she had to sacrifice her life to save him, then so be it. She ran through everything about chakra coil damage in humans that she learned from Hashirama all those years ago. If one's chakra coil was burned out, the main method of healing was to let the injured rest, allowing his own chakra to clear the blockade within his system, and to allow his chakra to stimulate and heal the coils themselves. But chakra core damage is harder to heal. It requires a small amount of chakra injection to the coil periodically to stimulate their production and control functions, while also allowing the patient's own chakra that's still remaining to slowly heal the core as well. Basically, the patient needs a small amount of chakra injection constantly, and lots of time, both of which Naruto does not have. She nearly went into panic mode at this realization. How can she help heal Naruto? She was within his chakra core, so any damage to his core would mean that she was also unable to help him. Naruto's body was already breaking apart, so he had no time to lose. Every second counts, and she does not even have the slightest idea on how to fix his body. A small drop of idea struck her mind. What if she were to make a new chakra core for him? She immediately dismissed the idea, labeling it as ridiculous. How can she make a new chakra core? But as she thought of other ways to save Naruto, again and again her mind wandered back towards the ridiculous idea. She had no other way of saving him, and this was the only idea that came to her mind. But will it work? As ridiculous as the idea sounds like, she had no other way to save him, and there were no other methods available for him. It was almost impossible for him to be saved now unless if someone were to found Naruto right now and realize his chakra damage. The more she thought about it, the more appealing she thought the idea was. Being a creature made of chakra, she understood more about chakra than anyone alive. Not to mention the fact that she knew Naruto's body inside and out right now. Having seen no other path to Naruto's recovery, she began to think of how to implement the new chakra core. It must meld together within his very genes, so that it will not induce an autoimmune rejection response. She also needed some materials to make it, and the only thing that came to mind was to slightly thin down Naruto's muscles to gain the materials. Other than that, her Yuki will also be used to form and shape the new organ and making sure that it perfectly works in controlling, producing, and compressing his chakra. She would also need a second organ, one that will save the stem cells for every other organs and functions within Naruto to act as a pseudo-reset button in case she failed. It needs to store and monitor his body, making sure everything is working perfectly. If it does not, she can heal or restore the problematic parts based on the samples it had within it. She may not be able to stop Naruto's chakra core from being burned with it, but at least she might be able to make sure he lives. It will be a first in the world. Unprecedented, untested, and unproven. And only within her mind did it exist. Slowly she closed her eyes. In her mind, she imagined the structure of the two new organs, how they would integrate with his body, and how they would work. Multitudes of shapes and ideas floated within her head. The sound of the heavy storm acting as the thunderous background music to the turmoil she was in right now. And finally, after what seemed like years of brainstorming to her, she managed to figure out everything, or at least, everything she can think of. She will have to ad-lib something up in case of any issues little Naruto might experience. Naruto, I'm sorry, she whispered towards the unconscious Naruto. I have no other way to heal you, and only this can fix you up. I'll make sure that you survive to the future, both as my duty and as my punishment. So please forgive me this. And as she finished, she closed her eyes, preparing to control her power. Even detached from her, she still had control over it, though the further the power was from her, the worse her control was. But as close as within Naruto's body was not an issue with her. Her eyes closed shut as she concentrated her every thought towards the small amount of power still remaining at Naruto's heart before splitting it into three, one to make the new chakra core, and the other two to create the stem cell storage. She believed that having two of the latter would be better since one can support the other in case it was damaged for any reason. Through Naruto's chakra system, the three small blobs of Yuki moved before they rest at their destination, at his throat and below his ribs for the two stem cell storage, and beside his heart for the new chakra core. Not wanting to aggravate Naruto's chakra system further, she quickly went to work, her Yuki eroding the areas non-lethal to Naruto before dragging it towards the location of the new organs. The materials coalesced into blobs each, and with her mind and imagination she molded and formed the tiny materials, her powers in action as she modified the blobs of flesh into the new organs she needed. And at the very instant her powers flowed within his body, the deterioration of his chakra system began even faster. Yet Kurumi was as calm and collected as she could possibly be, slowly guiding her powers to create the necessary functions for Naruto, for she knew that her failure would mean a dead Naruto. And that was enough of a reason for her to concentrate everything she had towards the creation of the new organs. She will not mess this up. It took nearly half an hour, a time that seemed like eternity for her before she finally finished forming the organs. But she knew that forming the organs was only the first step. Now, she needed to link them towards Naruto's body, ensuring that they will function properly without any issues. Her power stretched towards the closest major blood vessels to the new organs before she made new blood vessels and capillaries, stretching to and from the closest arteries and veins towards the new organs, ensuring their operations. Within a few short moments she finished and felt blood circulating within the tiny organs as Naruto's heart pumped fresh blood towards them, relief clear in her mind as she felt the oxygen exchange taking place within the new organs. Risking major damage to Naruto's chakra system, she spread her power through his entire body. One part of her power took cell samples to be stored within the stem cell storage, while another part of it tore through Naruto's chakra system deliberately before she began constructing a new bridge connecting the new chakra core to the previous system. It does not take long for her to finish gathering the cell samples. After they were successfully stored within the new organs, she set her sights on a different place, the most dangerous of all location within the body to modify, the brain. Part of her power went towards his brain as the other painstakingly created the new chakra pathways for the new chakra core, something that cannot be done in a haste. She knew she was risking permanent damage to Naruto's chakra system, but this was the only way for her to rescue him. Her power slowly covered Naruto's brain as she looked for the most major change, to fit in the new organs within his body. A part of the brain within the medulla oblongata controls subconscious chakra generation. She knew this fact. She just needed the part to register the new chakra core as something that can generate new chakra, which was easier said than done. Another hour passed, and Naruto's chakra core was very nearing full collapse now. She estimated that she would only have about 2 hours at best before the main chakra core completely burns out. But she finally managed to make Naruto's body accept the new organs, and to have the brain control the chakra generation by the new organ. It was not easy, but she succeeded. And as the catalyst for chakra generation, she pushed the last remains of her power towards the new chakra core, modified to be able to accept and regulate Yuki as well instead of just regular chakra before filtering the Yuki to regular chakra given enough time. Or at least, that was what she planned for it. A minute, then 2, then it stretched to 5, yet no chakra came from Naruto's supposedly new chakra core. Worry slowly began settling in her, as she noticed the lack of chakra production from the new organ. She moved small pockets of her power, risking more damage to his chakra system. She could only cringe in fear as she felt how Naruto's chakra system began breaking down, yet she knew she needed to do so. She read the condition of Naruto's body together with the new organ using what remained of her Yuki outside Naruto's damaged chakra core, slowly muttering the status of the new organ. All blood vessels are working, and oxygen exchange is in perfect order. Chakra network eroded, but connected to the new organ. But why is it not working? She yelled to herself. She did everything right. It should work by now. Why haven't it? In a last-ditch attempt, she removed every single shred of Yuki she had at Naruto's new chakra core, gathering them at the stem cell pockets. The new packets worked, something that slightly relieved her, yet she knew that until Naruto's chakra began flowing in earnest, his life was still in danger. She monitored the condition of his body using the slight remains of her Yuki everywhere within his body. Slowly she saw as Naruto's own chakra flowed within the new chakra core, circulating within the small fleshy blob. Her heart soared as she saw the human chakra flowing into the new core, hoping that it would be the catalyst needed. Yet nothing happened. Chakra flowed and was consumed by the new organ somehow, but nothing came out. Not even a small trickle. Her heart sank deeper than the ocean floor as she saw how Naruto's chakra core began deteriorating, slowly destroying itself from the lack of his own powers within it. No! Naruto! Don't die! She screamed out as loud as possible. She knew that more than anything, one's own will to live played a very important role in chakra generation. Please! Live! She screamed out once more, hoping that he would hear her. Wake up! Please! Her heart-rending screams of pain tore through the darkness of his mindscape. Please! She crumpled on the wet floor of the sewer, her body impacting the water with a loud splash, the wake of her fall creating ripples, infinitely echoing within the dank sewers. Please don't leave me alone, she continued, her voice no more than a whisper as her tears fell into the waters. She had lost everything, her good friends, her teachers, her father, even her siblings as they lost themselves within the throes of the Jubi's maddening powers. And with Naruto gone, she would be completely alone in the world, with no one to help her or to befriend her. She would lose everything, even her sanity, as she forgot the words of her father and his teachings. She would end up being nothing but a beast, living immortal only to destroy and to kill. A small pulse throbbed from within Naruto, causing Kurumi to look up from her prone position. Immediately she stood up to her full height, her eyes closed. Her powers quickly provided her with a diagnostic detail of his body. And she saw as the small blob of chakra pulsed like a heart. Slowly, chakra swirled within it from what's left within his body. And she saw how the chakra that went in exited again, but with an infinitesimally small addition to it. And she immediately knew, then and there, that she had succeeded. She released the breath she never knew she held as she saw the organ working as she originally planned, generating minute amounts of chakra just enough to ensure Naruto's body to heal itself. She quickly slumped on the flooded floor of her cage, mental exhaustion taking over her body as she finished with Naruto's modification. I hate this power, she whispered. It was too powerful. It's almost godly, what she can do with it. Only today, at a host that haven't adapted to the sheer potency of her Yuki, did she found an issue with it. Previously, Mito can even heal major damages with it, even an arm that was almost torn off. It's madness, that's what it is. Yet she was also thankful to the power, for Naruto would never survive if not for it. At least his convulsions stopped, she said as she observed Naruto's status with her mind's eye, observing how his body finally relaxed. And she swore to herself at that point, that if she had to use the power she loathed if it ensured his survival, then so be it. He was her only chance at redemption, and he needed to survive for that. And now, time to wait, she whispered to herself again as she laid down on the wet floor, her remaining power monitoring Naruto's status as best as she could, the raging storm outside the only sound accompanying her. Break. Hours passed by after her operation, the tropical storm already a bad memory within everyone's mind by that time as the light of the daybreak sun began shining at the horizon, a sight to behold to anyone who's up to see it. Yet it wasn't even given a passing thought by Kurumi, her main focus being Naruto's well-being. Much to her relief, the new organs worked wonders to Naruto's recovery. The chakra core produced and regulated chakra as she wanted it to, slowly producing more to fill in the lack of chakra Naruto had before. His original chakra core has stopped its lethal deterioration, already having his human chakra flowing through it, allowing it to recover as his secondary chakra core regulated and produced the chakra he needed to live. The other organ also worked wonders, having already stored the stem cells of his other organs and quickly producing new ones to heal the parts of his body that was injured from last night's drunken beating by the mad matron. She usually beat him with that stick of hers, but it was never this bad. His body was healing slower than she wanted, but that's fine with her. She won't want to risk more damage to his recovering chakra system by having her Yuki accelerate his recovery. From the way he was progressing though, his chakra will have recovered fully by the day's end. And when he's recovered, she can let her Yuki flow again, letting his chakra intermingle with her powers more instead of flooding his chakra pathways like she did before. I think I need a name for those new organs, she thought. She had just created new organs to help heal his body, so she needed to name them. Maybe the linker core for the new chakra core, and the progenoid glands for the stem cell storage and recovery? Sounds like good names, she thought, ideas suddenly flowing within her mind out of nowhere. Quickly she shook her head. She had bigger issues to think of than silly names for the organs as she monitored Naruto's condition. Though she admitted they sound pretty cool, the linker core, that's a pretty cool name, she thought, a small blush at her own self-praise on her face. A minute amount of Yuki was spread all over Naruto's body for her to use in monitoring his condition, so small it does not interfere within his healing chakra system. She was confused as to why Naruto haven't woken up yet. Even through everything he went through, he would wake up as soon as he was healed. She blamed the lack of his chakra within his body for his lack of consciousness. Her Yuki had finally spread around Naruto's body at an intensity that won't bother his recovering chakra system too much. Immediately she observed everything within his body with her mind's eye, and what she found out was more terrifying than she could ever imagine. His bones were broken, some of the shards even piercing his organs. But that was not her biggest worry. His entire body was breaking down at a cellular level, with nearly all his tissues and bodily functions breaking down. The presence of her Yuki helped jumpstart their healing, yet she saw that it was too slow in comparison to the breakdown of his bodily functions. Even now, his blood pressure was dropping badly, a result of his damaged heart. Naruto! She screamed out immediately as the terrifying reality of Naruto's condition finally made itself known to her. Her first reaction was to quickly spread her Yuki to heal him, only to stop just in time as she recalled the damage his chakra coils were suffering. If she were to spread her Yuki and heal him at the same intensity as she did before, she would quickly overwhelm the new linker core's chakra production, killing him as he lost the very power that made him live. Yet she knew she cannot ignore the damage. Her examinations of his body told her that he would die very, very quickly as his entire body broke down, having lost the very Yuki that supported and made it grow before with Naruto's chakra core breakdown. The healing was accelerated by the presence of her Yuki, she knew, yet the rate of deterioration was worse than the rate of recovery. No matter what, he would die. If the matron didn't do anything, then he would die by the end of the week at best. Kurumi was panicking by now as she ran around within her cage, massive splashes of filthy water heard within the dark space. What should I do? What should I do? Someone, help me! She yelled out within the infinite darkness that was the top of Naruto's mindscape. She never stopped running in circles as every avenue of rescue she had for little Naruto was utterly blocked, and his death never looked closer than it was now. Father Mito Kushina, please, help me, anyone, she whispered, her head already slumping down in defeat. This was it. For her, and for Naruto, but she jerked back up as an idea struck her mind. What if, just like his chakra core and that new organ, she made new ones to help him with his recovery? Her teeth crackled as she gnawed on her long claws, her nervousness at the thought something even Naruto could see. She may have promised that she would do anything to save him, but modifying his body again? Should she? It was already a huge change to how a human should work, and making them temporary was not an option. It needs to meld with Naruto's body, both for today and for his future. A loud smack echoed within the dark mindscape as she smacked her face. Keep yourself together, she yelled, more to psyche herself up. Naruto must survive. He must, no matter what. And she had already promised to herself that he would survive, no matter what. Even if she had to rely on her repulsive power, then she must, but for now, she needed to stop Naruto's deteriorating body from breaking down even faster. And with a quick examination, she found out an oddity, something she could take advantage of to help him. The places where his tissues corrode was only where it touched other damaged tissues. With precision born of practice and knowledge, she sent a microscopic amount of Yuki to those parts, quickly using it as scalpels to cut them off without affecting the functionality. As her Yuki accelerated the healing of the remaining tissues, she carried the damaged tissues within his bloodstream, once again carrying them to different locations for her to create new organs for Naruto. Let's see, she whispered, her mind quickly running through the issues he was facing. Low blood pressure, damaged tissues, and broken, unhealed bones. Her ideas were mad, even by her standard, but she knew he needed these. Her Yuki may not make the damaged tissues heal themselves back to their actual strength or functions, but what she can do with them would be more than enough right now. Her Yuki corroded the damaged tissues further before finally ending up with a sort of biological slush, contained within his bloodstream and carefully isolated by an extremely thin mixture of chakra and yuki so that her yuki won't contaminate his chakra system again. And with the same mixture, she split them into parts which went around his comatose body as she prepared to once again work her magic. This time though, she used a mixture of yuki and chakra, his chakra manipulated by her yuki into the would-be organs to prevent any rejection or any breakdown like it did before with pure yuki. Thankfully, the second chakra core, the linker core, she reminded herself, quickly adapted, increasing its small chakra production slightly higher to compensate for what she took away. Having had experience with it, she did not take long to mold the tiny flesh slush into different organs, all meant to help Naruto. One was located right beside his heart, which was to be a secondary heart to help his blood circulation and make sure he had a good amount of oxygenated blood within his system. Another would be something called the Biscopia. I sure can come up with some good names, she boasted to herself, an organ that would help heal and recover Naruto's body tissues and strengthen his muscular system, allowing him to take more punishment than a regular person just in case something similar happened again. The third was the Osmodula. Where did these names came from? She wondered all of a sudden, an organ that will help heal and strengthen his skeletal structure, preventing them from breaking easily even with his young age. Another organ was the Susan membrane, for suspended animation, get it? She giggled as she talked to herself, one layer over the brain that would help send him in an artificial coma so that he can easily be healed by his body, or by someone else. So focused was her at the construction and formation of the organs that she failed to realize that the matron had stood over Naruto, a bowl of food once more in her hand with her usual stick in the other, hate filling her eyes as she glared towards Naruto's body on the ground. So you didn't die, she slowly whispered. She may not recall completely what she did last night as she was drunk, but she knew enough to know. Not to mention the pieces of the broken ceramic sake bottle still all over the small room. Her hand moved, spilling the contents messily on Naruto's tiny body. Must be some demon magics that helped him survive, she thought. No matter. You will be here for a long time, and I will have many more chance to use your demon magics. And unlike the previous days, she didn't hit him with the stick and just turned around, a small disgusted scoff coming from her as she did. A small saving grace for the modified little Naruto. She slowly walked towards the kitchen of her orphanage, but a sound from the side of the building stopped her, causing her to walk towards the source of the sound. As she did, the noises grew louder, before loud whispers were heard from the same location. With a single leap she landed right in front of the source of the noises, which, unsurprisingly, were her orphan charges. Kids, she stood in front of the fallen kids, hands on her waist with the punishing stick in another. What are you doing? A boy started to say, yet his eyes darted everywhere but towards her as nervous sweat began dripping down his brow. We want to play. Yeah. The bunch of kids chorused together, joining the boys' quickly made up reasoning. She just shook her head at the kids with a smile on her face. It's not good trying to lie to me, kids. Now, what were you looking at just now? In the end, the boy deflated, knowing that it's useless to lie to his foster mother. We were just looking at you. Mayan told us you kept a demon here, came his reply, an indignant hey. Coming from Mayan at the edge of the bunch. She said that you were protecting us from it. You should learn to keep secrets better, Mayan, she chastised, causing Mayan to puff her cheeks, a blush on them. But she is correct, she replied, quickly going into serious mode as she stared at the kids. In that hut there is a demon, and it is bad. Very bad. It hurt many people before, and you must not come close. She lifted the stick she wielded, showing it to the gaping kids. This is my weapon to pacify it. You must not touch it or use it, understand? And you must not speak of it at all. Let me protect all of you. She smiled as she watched the kids all nod as one, knowing that she meant business as she did. Now go. I'll prepare breakfast for all of us. And only with those words, all the kids rushed back towards the orphanage's building, cheers and yells of happiness in their wake. As they did, she shot one last glare towards the small hut which contained Naruto. As long as you are under my watch, I won't let you come close to anyone. You will remain there, until I had enough of you. Having said her farewell, she followed the kids' steps, heading towards the kitchen. Hours passed quickly afterwards as Kurumi focused her everything on modifying Naruto's body to allow him to survive another day at the orphanage. She nearly ran out of nutrients to enrich and enhance his body, but she managed to feel the matron's usual food dumping and quickly took the chance to digest and absorb the food, allowing her to focus on creating said new organs in Naruto's body. The organs were complete, and all of them are working as they should be. Naruto's pale body quickly gained some much healthier color as his blood pressure and flow rate increased thanks to the secondary heart, though still nowhere near being completely healthy. The Susan membrane worked near instantly, keeping Naruto's body comatose, allowing her to monitor his condition easily and healing whatever's needed. His brain had been modified, allowing it to control the organs. The other new organs are working well too, with the progenoid glands storing the stem cells of the new organs and making sure every part of him was working properly. Both the Biscopia and Osmodula had begun secreting the necessary biochemicals to enhance his muscles and bones. She knew the enhancements might not be instantaneous, but at least he will survive better now. Even his linker core functioned perfectly, regulating his chakra properly despite her yuki flowing together. His original chakra core had healed nicely thanks to the chakra produced by the linker core. His chakra, ever so strong thanks to his Uzumaki blood, was nearly completely filled, and this was probably what accelerated his chakra core's recovery. This also allowed Kurumi to absorb the external nutrients properly, no longer doing any damage to his body with her yuki thanks to the human chakra lacing within the thin yuki strands she always controlled. Yet she knew it was not enough. She might just cause the same issue again, tearing his young body apart due to her yuki. The only reason that she could freely manipulate his chakra was from his comatose state. If not, the human's conscience would automatically cause his chakra to reject the control her yuki had over it, something she discovered when Mito experimented with her yuki all those time ago. He needs to be able to heal from injuries quickly, and become able to act on his own. Her mind quickly calculated and planned for a third round of organ enhancements, organs that can accelerate his healing and allow him to survive far longer than a regular human. Two ideas quickly came to mind. One was an organ that will generate special cells like the human's immune system T cells, but can also help heal wounds and was supercharged, allowing him to survive diseases others couldn't. The second would be something that changes his blood composition, allowing his blood to carry more nutrients and oxygen better to the entire body. The first was named the Laraman's organ, which creates the Laraman cells, and the second was the hemastamen. Once again, with a sigh and a sad frown on her lips, she molded her powers, ready to perform the new modifications once more. "I'm sorry, Naruto," she whispered towards the unconscious Naruto. No one should go through something like this. Droplets of tears fell into the dark waters of the scarcely illuminated mindscape as her powers flooded the mindscape once more, bathing everything in a blood-red glow. Break. It has been 3 days from the fated day when Naruto's body need to be modified. Kurumi watched his unconscious mental representative within his mindscape with fear in her eyes, since he haven't woken up yet. She knew that everything about his body was fine. Her enhancements were all functioning perfectly, and all of his body's systems were functioning perfectly, both new and old. Even the Susan membrane had stopped putting Naruto in a coma, and his bodily functions are working as strong as ever. Yet, returned to consciousness he had not. "Naruto?" Kurumi whispered towards the body in front of her. "Naruto? Wake up, please. Don't play with me like this." Her tails slowly snaked past the massive bars and reached Naruto's prone body. She gave him a gentle nudge, trying to physically wake him up. "Naruto? Wake up, please," she begged, her tails nudging his body again and again. "Naruto!" Kurumi cried out as she fell on the wet floor, her tears falling non-stop. He could not break out of his coma, and it was all her fault. Her desperate modifications must have toyed too much with his brain, permanently putting him in a coma. He was a vegetable now, an invalid, not alive but not dead all the same. "Naruto!" came Kurumi's sorrowful scream, a scream full of regret and despair. She should not have did those modifications. He should not have lived like this. He should not even have to go through all these efforts just to make him survive. "It's all my fault. I'm the only one guilty. You shouldn't have to go through all this." Her thunderous roar echoed within every corner of Naruto's labyrinthine mindscape, bringing with them her regret, disappointment, and sadness. As she was about to let loose another roar, Naruto's body twitched. A small twitch, barely visible to someone else, but not her. Her hope rose higher than the sky as she caught the small twitch at the corner of her eyes. "Naruto?" she whispered once more. But unlike her previous calls, this one was filled with hope. "Naruto? Are you awake?" Slowly the twitches increased in intensity, almost as if responding to her call. Slowly his hands moved and touched the wet floor, causing her eyes to widen and a smile to blossom on her face. Without any prompting his hands pushed the wet floor. And with a last spurt of strength, his body straightened as he stood, his entire body wobbling unsteadily. He immediately lost his balance, causing him to fall on his behind with a small splash. But most importantly, he was back. "Naruto!" Kurumi yelled, tears of happiness falling from her eyes as she saw this. Her tails darted towards his body and quickly wrapped around him before he carried him towards her face, as close as possible to her eyes. "You're alive!" she screamed, not caring if Naruto was injured from the sheer volume of her scream. "Let me!" Naruto yelled in response, his hands quickly covering his ears to prevent any lasting damage to them. "Let me!" he yelled out as he glared towards his guardian. "Let me!" he yelled once more as his hand waved around without objective. "Sorry," she replied sheepishly. But what's important to her was that he's alive and well. "But you're okay. And that's what's important." "Let me!" he yelled again with a smile on his face. One hand pointed towards himself. "Ruto, good!" Kurumi excitedly yelled. "We can start again now," she cheerfully yet tearfully said, her mind spinning with the things she could have him learn now that he's back and alive, and better than ever, almost as if he never went through anything. She knew that he shouldn't even be able to say his name, much less glare at her. She knew he should be unable to even stand properly now. Yet she pushed everything to the deepest side of her mind. For now, she only wanted to enjoy his warmth, the very feeling that she swore she would protect. She just wanted him to stay with her for now, damn all the errant thoughts. And so, Kurumi played with her charge, as if he never went through a life-threatening situation. 2 years old. For others, that age was just the start of their young lives. Yet for Naruto, it almost felt like a century away. He lived through the matron's beatings and inedible food, managing to scrape by his survival every day, thanks to Kurumi and her forced enhancements. If not for that, he might not be able to see the day he reached to. Today, just like the other days, he was cheerfully running within the darkness of his dimly lit mindscape in front of Kurumi's cage, not even bothering about the smelly waters as the splashes his footsteps made echoed within the immense chambers. Only here he can act like a regular child, playing around without a care in the world. Kurumi stood behind her cage, watching him with a smile. "Naruto, come here," she said, a tail slowly reaching out from behind the bars towards the energetic child in front of her. Okay, he quickly climbed on top of her tail, hugging it with all his might so as to not fall. "I really like your tail, Kurumi-chan." "Yes, you do," came her somber reply. Her enhancements seemed to have some unpredictable side effects to his body. Her constant modification of his brain to adapt to the new organs seemed to have improved them, allowing Naruto to speak fluently despite his young age. He also learned faster, taking only a month to fully learn how to speak, and another couple months to properly pronounce the words without any of the typical childish slurs in those aged 8 to 10 years old. She had no idea what else that her enhancements changed, so she always kept a close look at his situation. His body was much stronger than a regular child now, but he was still a baby in the end. Stronger than a boy 3 times his age was nothing much to say, but what the enhanced muscles brought by the Biscopia helped him to endure the beatings the matron put him through easily. And with his improved immune system and healing factor, he no longer needed any help to survive, except for his nutrient intake, which was still abysmal. She brought him towards her head, a sad smile on her face as she thought of the enhancements. No one should require those changes just to survive. Especially one directly related to a Hokage and the last descendant of the Uzumaki royalty. Yet she knew it wasn't the time yet for her to tell him all this. He needs to grow more, to gain more strength before she could tell him the truth behind his identity. "You've done all the exercises I told you to?" she asked. "Yup," came his cheerful reply. Nowadays, Kurumi placed him through many physical exercises meant to ensure a proper growth for his body despite the small area he was placed in. Being Naruto, he followed without question, performing those exercises every day. As a result, he was stronger, faster, and more agile than any child 3 times his age. To prevent the matron from catching him training himself, he was forced to train at night, when the entire orphanage was sleeping. So far, it seemed to work. "Have you eaten?" Those were terrible. He blanched. The foul taste of the food he was fed was still lingering within his mouth. "You know you won't be able to survive without it," she said in reply. She knew the food was terrible. Oh, how she knew. But she also knew that he won't survive without it. Those food he was given was the only thing that kept him between dying. It doesn't matter if he hates it, he still need to eat them. "But can I eat something else?" "Those are terrible," he protested. He rejected the idea again and again before, but he knew his beloved and only friend Kurumi-chan within his mind won't let him to do so, saying that it's necessary for his survival. Which it was. "But that doesn't mean he can't hate it, and I have just the idea to help with that," she replied with a smile. In her mind, ideas for more enhancements already popped up to help him solve his nutritional issue. He needed those nutrients critically, and what better way to have him look for it? To be honest, she didn't like modifying his body. But he needed those nutrients, and she had no other idea how to. "You're going to modify me again?" Naruto asked with a tilt of his head. She already told him of the modifications and the effects to him, and he accepted it easily. She did it to ensure he survived anyway. "Yes," she replied with a nod. It always hurts her to see him like this, a cheerful and excitable child, yet not really knowing why he was punished and hurt constantly. "This time, there are more organs that I want to add than before," she admitted. "You'll be unconscious during the procedure, so you won't feel anything." "Oh, cool," he replied excitedly. She had been teaching him about human physiology, and it was something exciting to see the master at work. Though he can't really see it since he would be out cold, as she said. "What are you going to add this time?" "The first is the catalepsia node, which will give you the ability to forfeit sleep, making you capable of staying up for days by shutting down only a few parts of your brain at a time instead of your entire brain. This also gives the benefit of not needing to be fully asleep to get rest, putting you in a meditative state where the brain rests itself temporarily, which makes you capable of resting while still aware of your surroundings. You will still need a full sleep after some time though. This does not completely replace a good night's sleep." "Sounds great," he answered in excitement, already leaping in joy at this. She continued. "The second is the oculobe, which will improve your eyesight so much that not only will you see much further than a normal human, you will also be able to see during the darkest of nights like it's daylight. Also, it gives you special visual modes, chakra sight where you can see the flow of chakra of any living being, and infrared sight, which allows you to see heat, allowing you to see a target even in total, absolute darkness. They are normally activated at the same time, with the infrared sight automatically filtering out background heat or anything that's too hot. However, you can also turn them off anytime you want with just a thought, which allows you to control whether or not you can see chakra and/or heat. Chakra? It's something that a group of people called ninja or shinobi use as their power, and is available in every living being, she explained. I'll teach you how to use it later, but not right now. Okay. The third is the preomner, a secondary stomach that can neutralize any and all biochemical contaminants and any poisons that you ingest. It also allows your body to digest anything that you eat, allowing you to gain nutrition even from supposedly inedible stuff. It can even store any toxic products that cannot be digested before forcefully pushing them back to your mouth where you can just vomit it out, preventing any dangerous toxin from entering your system. The fourth is the liman's ears, a complete ear replacement that completely removes the effects of nausea, dizziness, and vertigo due to motion, and prevents a loss of balance in any condition, preventing enemies from destabilizing your base. It also gives much better listening capability, allowing you to easily track or listen to anything around you and to judge a target's distance and actions. It will also filter out any sound you want while strengthening those that are desired, enabling you to completely focus your entire sense of hearing to a single target if required. The last organ is the omophagia, an organ that allows you to absorb information from the brains of any animal that you eat, allowing you to gain their memories and skills. It also allows you to learn techniques and skills from animals that you hunt and enemies that you might kill later on. The brains that you eat can even be digested by the preomner as well, giving you much-needed nutrients. How did that last one work? Naruto questioned, his face scrunched in confusion. So he can eat something and gain its knowledge? Now that's a bit hard to explain, Kurumi admitted. Memories are stored within the brain for any creature. That's why you can train yourself in this mindscape and use that knowledge in the outside world. Even muscle memory is mental, in that you have trained your body to react instantly to certain attacks or events, something that will be etched in your mind. The omophagia filters the gathering of neurons that contain memories. It will quickly absorb these neurons and analyze them, gaining their memories. Oh. Okay. But before she could do anything, another question popped out of his mouth. Say, Kurumi-chan, where did you get the ideas for these organs? They even have cool names for them. Wonder how you came up with them. He cannot help but feel curious about this. It's almost as if she knew the idea already, and was just trying to figure out how to make them for real. I don't really know, she admitted with a shrug. They just appeared, but mostly it's because they're what you require at the time, like the ones I just told you of. They allow you to train late at night and hunt and or forage for food while being able to detect and hide from those who would try to stop you, though you'll need to learn how to move quickly and quietly. But the names never thought about that, honestly. They just came to my mind. As long as they had names, it's better than not, right? Naruto just nodded in agreement. Are you ready now? She asked one last time. No more questions? Naruto drew a deep breath in his mindscape and let it all out in a massive whoosh as he psyched himself up. I'm ready. Let's do this. Kurumi placed him down on the wet floor before he lay down with arms spread wide. Kurumi's massive claw hovered over Naruto's prone body before she pricked his skin, sending a wave of yuki through his body. The first thing she did was to engage his Susan membrane, putting him in a comatose state. Immediately she went to work, modifying his body through the entire night, a secret known only to her and Naruto. Break. The morning sun split the clouds when Naruto's operation ended. With her experience at modifying his body, plus the comatose state he was put into, she was faster than before in making all those organs despite a higher number of the organs. The organs have been properly integrated within his body, and she had disabled the Susan membrane's functions, allowing him to wake up normally. Okay, Naruto. We're done, so you can open your eyes now, came Kurumi's voice from their mental link, a voice which sounded strangely loud to him. It was about a month after her first modifications that made Naruto knew the existence of the mental link. And she always used it to keep him company, or just to have him train his body to increase his muscular strength as best as he could with his age. This time, his procedure gave him near-instant effects. He could clearly hear everything around him. The drop of his sweat on the floor, the sound of an old bed creaking, the footsteps of rats within the walls, even the creak the old house made as the sun's rays warmed its structure, every sound seemed to echo within his head. Just think of lowering the volume down. The liman's ears will slow them down immediately. Complying, Naruto thought of lowering the voices down. Much to his amazement, the voices did quiet down to a normal level. Remembering the list of implants that were done to him, he opened his tightly shut eyes. Once more, he was amazed at what he saw. Everything he saw had a different color to it. The door of his closet had a light bluish color to it, and everything else as well. Looking at his hands, he saw that it had a certain orangish color to it with a dark bluish hue in it. That was because your body temperature is higher than a regular person's and because you have more chakra than anyone else, Kurumi said once she noticed what Naruto saw from his eyes. Body temperature? Naruto asked, looking around for any reference points in temperature. Yup, Kurumi said with pride. It seemed that her operation succeeded. The hotter something is, the redder it will be. The colder something is, the bluer it will be, until it becomes black at an incredibly cold temperature. See the door? Kurumi said, referring to the door that Naruto saw. That means that the door was cold, but not too cold. Since it automatically removes ambient temperature, you won't see the temperature of the air, but any other objects are visible. Wow! Naruto replied, extremely excited at the sights that he would see with his new eyes. Can't wait to try them out later. His excitement even leaked to his face, where a long, face-splitting smile was visible on it, belying the pain he was put through only a couple hours ago. Relax, Naruto, Kurumi said with a chuckle, trying to calm the excited boy down. The modifications last night were meant to give you the ability to hunt at night, while avoiding everyone else so that you can get enough food for your improved body. However, you can also try them out to practice with them before you actually use them for what they're supposed to be tonight. Okay, he said eagerly. Break. The day passed by as usual, with Naruto being given the terrible food by the matron, and isolated from everyone else. Yet he already learned a lot about his Akilobe within that time period. He saw that everyone else had a body color of yellow, with certain parts being green with a small dot of chakra blue in their body, signifying that they had a regular body temperature while having a small amount of chakra. His ears caught their voices and their sounds, making him isolate them instinctively, allowing him to determine the movement patterns of the people around his small hut. Naruto, ignore the rest. Use your senses to its maximum and memorize their routines, Kurumi told him, something he immediately obliged. The entire day, Naruto did nothing but observe and listen. He took note of everyone's routine, of how they moved, of how they walked. He focused his hearing to the matron and the kids, trying to learn their footsteps and gathering as much detail as he could before the night. Finally, the night came. It was late in the night as Naruto sat on the floor of his tiny room, listening to everyone's movement as well as he possibly could through the wood that made the door and the walls of the orphanage, a huge house converted for the orphans of Konoha with tall walls surrounding it. And tonight, he was going to climb out, all for the sake of food, a plan that Kurumi already thought of just a moment ago before everyone went to sleep. But first, he needed to bypass the first obstacle, the walls of his tiny room. Above the wooden walls were massive gaping air holes, enough for his tiny body to pass through. The air holes were the source of some of his worst torments as snow, rain, and the sun's hot rays entered freely into his room from them. Yet today, they would become his salvation, for it gave him a way out of his torture room. With practiced ease, he climbed up to the hole, using the small wooden bars to pull his body up. He inched slowly towards the top of the hut, his senses primed and ready, scanning the surroundings for any sign of the matron waking up. It took a titanic effort to him, but he finally reached the top where he stopped still again, monitoring his surroundings. He poked his head outside before he placed a hand on the other side of the wooden wall that was his cage. Slowly he climbed downwards, making sure he made no noise at all as he did so, using the tiny gaps between plywood walls to move. Finally he reached the ground before he immediately crouched on all fours, looking around within the dead of night with his enhanced senses. And what a sight out there! He never knew the earth could feel so moist and alive. He drew in a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill his lungs. A feeling of calmness and serenity enveloped him as the cold night embraced him, letting him feel a relaxing chill, something he never felt before. Slowly he crawled towards the orphanage's walls, his senses alert as he caught the cacophony of noises that the night brought up. It took him 10 minutes to reach the walls, standing about 2.5 meters tall in front of him, chafing white paint on its walls. He repeated the same process as he placed a foot on the wall, slowly climbing upwards towards the wall's top. His enhanced eyes allowed him to see the small cracks present on it, using them as footholds to reach the top. As he reached the top, his eyes scanned for everything as he hung on the other side of the wall, letting his eyes work their task as he tried tracking everything in the night. Finally satisfied, he let go of the wall, free-falling to the ground below. With a small thump he landed on the ground, his enhanced body absorbing the impact easily. He looked around, taking in the myriad of sights within the forest behind the orphanage. Being the hidden village of Leaf, they had multitudes of forests within the village itself, something that helped them train themselves. What now? He asked. In front of us is a small forest. I think you can hunt for small animals in there. Don't have to go for big game yet, look for easy targets first. You only need to eat and forage for food, so don't overdo it, Kurumi said. Nodding his agreement, Naruto went straight ahead as silent as possible, his eyes scanning for prey while his ears tried catching the location of anything that might come close to him. With his special eyesight, he quickly managed to lock onto a target, a large, fist-sized rat behind a pile of leaves, busy eating what seemed like a small piece of dried fruit. Is that okay? He asked Kurumi. That should be fine, she replied. Your body could digest nearly anything that you were to eat, so you'll have no problems eating it raw. Be careful though. They're fast little critters, so it might be difficult to catch them. Naruto just nodded at this before crouching low, preparing himself to pounce on the rat with all the strength his improved muscles gave him. Keeping his eyes trained on the rat, he noted every movement it made, the fast nibbling it was doing on the fruit in its hands, the way its ears perked around to find threats, the way its whiskers seemed to jolt with every small movement around him. Nothing missed his sight as the rat enjoyed its final dinner. Finally assured of his success level, Naruto bent his knees back before pushing the ground with his entire strength, sending him flying towards the rat. The rat, however, missed this in its ecstasy of its dinner, not able to hear the sound of Naruto leaping towards it. However, the movement of the wind alerted it that something was coming, causing it to stop and drop its food. It was too late. Naruto's strong hands quickly grabbed hold of the rat before he rolled down on the ground, reducing the momentum of his jump before crouching down. The loud squeaking of the rat went unrealized and unnoticed within the forest, its voice just a few among the cacophony of the forest's nightlife. He looked at the struggling and squeaking rat in his hand before he asked, "So how should I eat him?" "Just bit the head off," Kurumi replied. It was not really a necessity for Naruto to have his food cooked, and besides, if he cooked, he would be easily discovered, failing the task of hunting for his own food that he was assigned with. "Don't waste any of it. Eat everything." Nodding, Naruto immediately took the still squeaking rat and placed its head in his mouth. The rat, sensing that its life was in peril, squeaked even harder and much more frantically, but it was for naught. With a powerful bite, Naruto's teeth cleaved the rat in half, sending sprays of blood all over him and silencing his chitters once and for all. Ignoring the feeling of the warm liquid on his body, Naruto chewed the rat, crunching all of it with his strong jaws, crushing bones, organs and muscles into a mix of raw, unsafe for anyone but him pile of minced rat meat. To anyone else it might seem horrifying and inedible, but to Naruto, that was the freshest food he ever had. Finally finished chewing half of it, he threw the other half into his mouth, continuing the process again, mixing the two together. After some time of chewing, he swallowed everything, where his hungry stomachs eagerly await the incoming food, preparing to digest them. "That was delicious. Let's do that again," he said to Kurumi in excitement. Kurumi sighed at his enthusiasm. He sure needed to do that again though. "Okay, look around. Hunt some other animals too. Rats, snakes, hares, birds, anything." Nodding in agreement, Naruto began his hunt, looking around for any prey that he could, a huge, bloody grin on his face at the prospect of a nice game break. Licking his fingers after eating a squirrel that he found curling in a hole at a tree, Naruto let out a loud burp. Finally, after years of his life, his hunger was satiated. He could feel his entire body groaning in satisfaction as he gorged on the foods that he found within the forest. The mushrooms, the hanging fruits, even the insects, all of it was fair game for him. He was sitting down on the base of a tree, a stick in his hand as he picked his teeth for any residue, ignoring the blood that was dripping down his chin from his recent foods. "Naruto!" Kurumi shouted. "Don't burp like that. It's rude." "Aha!" Naruto sighed in relief before letting out another loud, long burp. "Sorry about that. It's just that I never felt this satisfied since ever." A pang of sadness hit Kurumi from his completely innocent statement, causing her to feel dejected. "Sorry, I forgot that you never had a full meal your entire life. I just wanted to teach you some manners. Forgive me." "Nah. No problem, Kurumi." Naruto replied to her words happily. "If not for you and those augmentations, I'd never be able to feel all this. I'll be stuck behind that wall, not even having a complete meal." "Hey, Kurumi, can we do this every day?" Kurumi was wiping her eyes as she heard Naruto's words echo within the mindscape. "Of course," she replied. "In fact, I want you to be able to do this every day, not letting up. You need to eat a lot, Naruto. This is the only solution." "Okay," he replied happily, an honest smile on his face outside his mindscape for the first time in years, a smile that could melt even the hardest of hearts, yet one that was buried beneath the tons of pain that he was put through his life. "Right," Kurumi said next. "You need some water to drink, and also to wash out the blood on your face. Can't let them catch you with that on, can we?" "Yup," he replied happily, still ecstatic at his first full stomach ever. Concentrating his ears again, he caught the sound of a small stream located close by his position. Immediately he stood, ready to rush towards it and clean his face. All the while, he still kept his senses up and at the ready in case anyone saw him. He couldn't expose himself yet. Along the way, he caught another rat, smaller in size than the first one, and promptly chewed it alive. It seemed that there were a lot of them in this area. A good source of food, if any, especially when combined with the fruits and herbs that he could forage. It didn't matter if he ate too much since his body could quickly digest the entire animal, bones and all, to become his fuel and the building blocks to his future developments. Reaching the stream, Naruto dipped his entire face into it, and quickly and greedily sucking the water with his bloody mouth. Small trails of blood flowed downstream as the rushing water cleaned his face. After a while, Naruto flipped his head up, needing to take a breath. "For that was delicious," he said to himself. "It sure is," Kurumi said with both happiness and sadness in her voice. No child should have to go through that just to get food. But now, she needed to start Naruto's training further, and hopefully they won't catch him during this important time. However, she was interrupted by Naruto, who was suddenly grabbing his head in pain. Naruto groaned as he fell on the ground, clutching his head. He was just basking from the fact that he just had a nice drink when suddenly, visions assaulted his head. Visions of him slithering on the ground, of him running through the forests, of him watching another animal, of how he tracked another creature, stalking it through the undergrowth, how his ears perked up whenever he sensed danger. Naruto! Hold on! That's not you! They're memories of the animals! Kurumi shouted in fear, trying to keep Naruto holding on to who he was and not be caught in the flow of memories from the animals he just ate. This is bad, she thought. I never thought that it would take effect this fast, and definitely not to this extent. He's going to lose himself at this rate. Naruto! Listen to me! She screamed again, trying to attract Naruto's attention. Naruto was struggling with the memories of the animals that he just ate. Their behavior, their instincts, their actions, their routines, all of them clashing madly with the personality that was Uzumaki Naruto. Kurumi's voice barely pierced through the dissonance of memories and minds of the creatures that he ate. As he struggled, he slowly but surely heard Kurumi's words through the calamity that was his mind right now, as if she was but a whisper within the clashing thoughts that were currently wreaking havoc in his mind. With extreme effort, Naruto used Kurumi's terrified voice to anchor himself as him, as Uzumaki Naruto, not as a snake or a rat. With a force of will as strong as steel, Naruto managed to pull himself back amongst the myriad minds that he just ate, which he experienced as well, slowly pulling himself towards Kurumi's gentle voice. 2. Lease me. Nah. Me, Naruto. Naruto's eyes snapped open as he heard Kurumi's last call, louder than any that he heard before, finding that he was lying spread eagle on the ground. Lifting a hand towards his face, he watched as the heat registered in his eyes in the form of orangish color with a dark blue center, showing his higher than normal body temperature and his immense amount of chakra before balling the hand into a fist, making sure that he was still alive. He did the same to his other hand and his legs before slowly getting back up to a sitting position and grabbed his throbbing head, feeling his twin hearts beating rapidly at his anxiety. Naruto! Naruto! Are you there? He heard Kurumi shouting through their mental link, trying to call out to him. Yug, I'm fine, Kurumi, he said, rubbing off the headache that was plaguing his head. What was that? It's like I'm not me. I'm something else, he asked. Kurumi let out a sigh of relief at this response. Naruto was back, and hopefully he could still hold his own consciousness. Those were the memories of the animals that you ate, Naruto, replied Kurumi. The Amophagia, if you remember, absorbs the memories from anything that you eat that had memories, allowing you to learn about them, their skills and their environment. However, it seems that it practically absorbed their entire mind as well. That just now was when their memories, experiences, their self, so to say, clashed with yours. Luckily, you recovered fast enough. Thanks for that, Kurumi, Naruto thanked her, still rubbing off his killer headache. If not for you calling me, I would have never found my way through that. A thought entered his mind then. What happens if I failed to find myself? Hesitantly, Kurumi replied, giving her theory of what might just happen in such a situation. You might just become feral. Caught between you and your recently gained animal instincts, you'll become something else. A combination of everything, yet nothing at all. It's not something that you'd want, nor would it be something that you can recover from, I think. Thanks to your iron will, you managed to hold on long enough to prevent you from being swept by the jumble of thoughts. Naruto shivered at this prospect of being caught as something that was inhuman. Something with a human's body, but with the amalgamated mind of many others, making him something human-like, yet not human at the same time. Really, thanks for that, Kurumi, he said again. A thought entered his mind at that time. Say, Kurumi, this is a bloodline, right? If my children were to do the same, how will they find themselves? They won't have you within them to call out to them. This stumped Kurumi. A little boy, not even 3 years old, already asking such a question? He'd matured faster than any other person she knew, and she knew that eventually he'd go even farther. A small voice at the back of her head spoke, telling her that it was due to her enhancements, a voice she agreed to, though she didn't necessarily show it to Naruto. Pondering on his question for a while, Kurumi finally answered, I think that you'll need to observe them. Make sure that when they did so, they did it with you or your wife beside them, so that you can call them back. You'll be their anchor, just like how I became yours. Naruto processed what Kurumi said as he nodded his understanding. He understood what she meant by that. He completely did. If what happened to him just now will be experienced by his children and their children, he need to be there to pull them back to their body and self instead of becoming the animal, a thought he did not even want to consider. Kurumi realized where Naruto's mind would be going, so to stop it, she immediately called Naruto. Naruto, enough about that. It's still early for you to think about that. Let's continue the night with some more training. Okay, Naruto answered weakly. Trying to push it out of his mind, he stood up, smacked his face before saying with as much enthusiasm as he could muster after such a devastating revelation. Alright. What's for today? Kurumi already saw through Naruto's paper-thin disguise of happiness, though she commented nothing of it. Instead, she put on her own mask of fake cheer and continued with their itinerary for the night. Alright. Next up on our agenda tonight is taijutsu training. And so, the night passed with the two together, Naruto moving his body according to Kurumi's orders, while Kurumi herself taught Naruto the move set of the taijutsu styles that she knew. Break. For months passed, and Naruto's routine continued the same as it was that first night, where he would sneak out of the orphanage, hunt animals and eat fruits, meditate to meld the minds and skills of the animals that he ate into his own mind, and to wash himself within the cold waters of the small stream. With his enhanced senses, he was never discovered at all, and the skills of the animals that he ate added up to his own, making him a much more terrifying predator while hunting. His body digested the food he ate easily, supplementing his body. The chemicals in his body made short work of any food he had, quickly building up his muscles and bones, making them denser and stronger as he ate the animals whole. As Kurumi sensed this, she slowly withdrew her Yuki from Naruto's body, forcing it to rely entirely on flesh instead of the Chakra Yuki mix she used before. Much to her delight,